Good. Good afternoon. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment, the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Dylan Reed, Gary McKay, Peter Reed, and Zahir Bayat. And our Deputy Secretary Treasurer is Sabrina Salatino. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid, in-person, and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submission in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. When your item is called, you'll be unmuted by the moderator. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must first fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal committee decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today I'll call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept new materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and make a presentation to the committee. Then individuals, either in support or oppose the application, will be invited to speak. Generally, we first call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, first of all, any declarations of interest, panel members? Nope, seeing none. Any deferral requests this afternoon?
Through you, Mr. Chair, see none.
And no files to be closed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, see none.
All right, then we will proceed with item number 19, 11 Peel Avenue. This is an application to obtain consent for a stratified severance of an existing non-residential retail unit, 34 Miniwan Meakin Lane, located on the ground floor, parking level 1 and parking level 2, within a 6 to 12-story mixed-use building, into 3 separate ownership retail units, also to maintain the existing easements right-of-way. Committee has before it a copy of the R plan of survey, a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 6 photographs of the subject property, a covering letter from the agent, several decision numbers affecting the subject property, and presentation materials from the agent. We have email correspondence from community planning and engineering and design services. It's the wrong title. And Metrolinx advisory.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Wang.
Good afternoon.
If I could get your name and address, please, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Wendy Wang. I'm from the 3808 East. That's the office I'm working from. And the company name is Dream. I'm representing Stephen Haskell.
Okay, ma'am, this is it looks like a fairly technical application. This is simply to sever, allow for 3 separate retail units
Yes.
within an existing multi-story building, right?
Yes.
Okay, panel, have we read this one? Does anyone have any questions? Do you need a presentation? You'd like so we'd like maybe just a quick, very brief overview of the application, just because it is technical. We want to make sure we understand it fully.
And also it's
Understood.
Yeah, it's stratified.
Ratified.
Yeah, so we'd like to hear, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Good.
Okay, so this the retail component is comprising of the ground floor, the P1 level, which the Dufferin Street one is facing the above grade level, and then so this is the commercial level is what we are aiming for. On the residential side, there are townhouses, which is not relevant to this application. Can I go to the next slide? So this is the P1, this is the ground floor. We would like to retain this as one piece, which is called Part 1 ground floor retained. And this is for the entire piece of the commercial unit of 11 Peel. And if you can skip to the next one. And then within the the P1 level, as you can see, the top part is connecting to the underground parking lot, and the bottom part is facing the Dufferin Street. We have the external exit to the park, and then connecting to the Dufferin Street. And we would like to divide this level into 3 components. The P1 on the very left, which is connecting to the ground floor as a Part 1, and the Part 2, which is in the middle section, is connecting to the next ground P2 level, and we have one extra exit facing the Dufferin Street, and then the last piece, which is in the color of blue, that's Part 3, will be a standalone severance unit by itself. And if you can go down another slide, please. And the last one is the entire P2 level, and that's considered as the Part 3. The font is a little bit small, so I'm not able to see, but it's connecting to the middle section of the P1 level that's above this floor. So that's basically what we are aiming for. If you can scroll down. So this is a list of the easement that currently it's connecting to, and also the part that we are going to sever it. The only thing that we haven't touched is basically the Part 4. This is because we have some open space going above the level, so we have something that's coming up listed as the Part 4, and it's easier to be visualized under the R plan. The next one, I think that's basically it. Any questions thus far?
No. Dylan, do you have a question?
Oh, Jerry, did you?
Well, go ahead. All right. I was just going to ask, why are we creating separate ownerships here with this stratified plan? What's happening?
Oh, we are just trying to see if we are not able to sell the entire piece of the commercial unit, and if we can sell it in a piece in 3 components. So that we are trying to design it in a way that if we like to sell, say, Part 2, then they can take this as one piece, and then we can sell Part 3, then they can sell the entire component as another piece. So we try to separate in advance for us to dispose the property, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Dylan?
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand exactly what's happening. So the P1 level actually opens out onto the park, right?
Yes.
Okay, so even though it's called P1, it actually has like a ground entrance.
Exactly. If you can scroll up to the very first page with the photo showing.
Yeah. I see. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we have Part 1, which is the ground floor and part of P1. And then we have P2, which is just on, then Part 2, which is just on the P1 level. And we have Part 3, which has like a little bit on the P1 level and then is mostly on the P2 level. Is that correct? Do I?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes,
I
this is
understand that
correct.
correctly. Okay, thank you very much. So I just wanted to understand exactly what we were doing.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Let's go into
Okay.
committee. Now that you fully understand it, Dylan?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm happy to, it's pretty straightforward, quite technical. Makes sense it's a very large space, so I totally understand the need to break it up into smaller spaces for renting out or selling. So I move that we approve these variances with the development engineering conditions.
Okay. Second, a motion by Mr. Reed to approve, subject to engineering conditions, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Move on to item number 20, A and B. 137 Curzon Street and 1480, 1492, and 1492R Dundas Street East. This is an application to obtain consent for a technical severance to reestablish two residential lots which were merged on title. The application is to permit the existing 2.5-story detached building. Committee has before it a copy of the draft R plan of survey, copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, previous decision number affecting the subject property, arborist report, proof of technical severance from the agent, a rental housing declaration form from the agent, and presentation materials from the agent. You have email correspondence from community planning and a staff report from engineering.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent here in person, no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name's Haley McWilliam, and my address is 3 Church Street.
Is the red button on?
It is, sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me better
Yeah,
now?
that's better. Thank you,
Okay.
Haley. All right, you were here previously to get some variances. You're back because of is it a technicality, or maybe you could just quickly give us an overview of what's going on?
Yeah, sure. I did prepare a brief presentation. If we could just pull that up, that might be helpful. But in the meantime, yes, we're here today. So there has been a couple committee of adjustment applications in the past. So our site is comprised of the 137 Curzon Street, the 1480, 1490, and the 1492R properties. So the 137 Curzon Street property, it's occupied by a 3-story detached dwelling that contains 3 dwelling units, and that was a recently constructed renovation. There was a minor variance application in 2022 to convert the dwelling from a 2.5-story, 2-unit detached dwelling into the 3-story, 3-unit detached dwelling. And then, in addition, the 1480 and the 1492 Dundas Street East properties, those are 2 separate 3-story apartment buildings, and there was a committee of adjustment application previously for that as well to add additional dwelling units in the basement of that building. But the reason we're here today is just for a technical severance. The 137 Curzon Street properties merged on title with the other properties when they were purchased back in 2018. So the application seeks to reestablish the previous lot lines. If we go to the next slide. So yes, this survey demonstrates that the lots previously were separate. The survey is from 1987. The lots did merge on title when 137 Curzon Street was purchased, and the technical consent simply seeks to reestablish the previous lot lines. If we go to the next slide, this is just our draft reference plan showing that 137 Curzon Street would be the severed lot. And then if we go to the next slide, so the reason for the minor variance application is that the property at 137 Curzon Street, as I mentioned, was previously subject to a minor variance application. And at that time, the plan submitted in support of the application showed a lot area of 116.47 square meters. And the variances approved in support of the renovation permitted an increase in the FSI value to 1.57 based on that lot area. And then the building permit plans included a different architectural set with a lot area of 111.47 square meters, which resulted in an FSI value of 1.64. So the reason that we're here is because the lot value, we have determined that the lot area is actually 111.47 square meters, resulting in the larger FSI value. So we're here because we're seeking the technical severance to obtain this technical variance as well.
Okay. Hale, any questions? Yes, Gary.
Yeah, I thought that engineering made a good comment, and that was we want to be able to confirm that both, both the conveyed and the retained parcel, they're municipally serviced separately, right? Is that the case?
Yes, we're aware of that condition.
Good full service, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else? Sure. Okay, let's go into committee. Seems fairly straightforward. Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks. That was a good presentation to understand what happened. But yes, I believe that this is it's a technical variance just to separate two lots that merged on title. So I move approval subject to development engineering conditions.
Okay, motion by Mr. Reed to approve, subject to engineering, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor? So here, your hands up. There we go. There you go. You have your approval. Thank you. A little slow on the mark there, Zahir. All right, we move on to item 21, which is 295 Strathmore Boulevard. This is an application to construct a new two-story ancillary building containing one parking space and one laneway suite with a second-story balcony in the rear yard abutting the laneway. There'll be a total of 2 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before it a copy of the minutes from the September 24th public hearing, a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans and elevations, received March the 21st, covering letter from the agent. You have staff reports from Urban Forestry and TTC. There is correspondence and interest from 1458 Danforth Avenue.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Hello, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Arash Bahamin at 4789 Youngest Street, representing the owner at 295 Strathmore Boulevard.
Okay, sir. Maybe just a short overview presentation, please.
Maybe including what's changed.
Yeah, because you were here before in front of the committee, so if you could flag what has changed since then.
Sure. So basically, as a background and context, this application was previously deferred to allow time for 3 key actions. And one of them was to review and respond to the evolving interpretation of Regulation 299-19 regarding the additional residential units. And one was to consult with the community planning staff. And another one was to engage directly with neighbors and local residents who expressed concerns in the last hearing. So we were able to clear all the concerns and all other objections that we had previously, and everything is now cleared. So basically what have been changed from the previous application till now is some of them are pertaining to the 45 degrees angular plane, which is no more applicable as per the new amendments to the bylaw. And one was the height, which is now reduced. So in terms of the current variances proposing right now, so there are 3 variances we are discussing about. Number 1 is the separation distance, which is also in relation with variance number 3, which is height. The required 7.5 meter versus proposed 5 meter. And another one is the second one is the building width, which is permitted 8 meters versus proposed 10.97 meter, which is the full width of the property to accommodate design adjustments after reducing height. And number 3 is the building height, which is the permitted 4 meters versus proposed 4.3 meter, which is consistent with approved variances across the city and necessary to maintain livable interior space. And this variance is also communicated with the planning staff back and forth after the original requested 4.97 and after request from the staff to reduce it down to 4.3 meters. So basically the proposed suite is modest in a scale, respectful of the laneway and neighboring properties. And the additional 0.3 meter in height is critical to allow for standard ceiling heights and livable spaces, but remains well within what has been previously approved in similar contexts. And we believe that this proposal is aligning with Toronto's housing policy objectives and Ontario's broader push to expand gentle density in urban areas. And again, we have communicated everything with the neighbors. All the previous objections is now being cleared, and the planning staff had shown their support for this proposal. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Dylan?
Just to fully understand what's done, so what you've done is you've kind of dropped the whole thing to below ground level on the house side, but thanks to the slope, that's actually ground level on the laneway side. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's a good solution, I think, to the issues. So, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Nope. All right, let's take this into committee.
I'm happy to take this on. I think I was there at the original one, and the concern was partially the height, which was quite high at the time. And I think this is a really clever solution in terms of still providing a 2-story laneway house, but one that isn't excessive in height on the kind of house side, on the garden side. I know there's a concern about a tree as well, and I think that this will help address any concerns about having to prune that tree or anything. So I think this is a really good solution to the problems that were brought up in the first one, and I'm happy to move approval of these variances with forestry condition number 2 and TTC conditions number 1 and 5.
Great. Okay, motion by Mr. Reid to approve with those conditions. Zahir, are you seconding it?
Yeah, I want to make a comment.
Sure thing.
I just find the variance number 2, it's not quite minor. You're looking at an 8-meter width, and they're asking almost 3 meters beyond that. So it's a quite considerable difference between what is permitted and what is being asked for. So I do have concerns about that particular one.
Okay, anyone else have any comments?
I think to me, it's basically similar to a lot of the garages that go from edge to edge. So for me, it's okay. And I think that was partially a way of addressing some of the issues with height in the original. So to me, that one's okay, especially given that the neighbors seem to be okay with it.
Yeah, I just looking Google Maps on the laneway, it sort of backs onto commercial as well. So
Yeah.
it kind of mitigates that massing
Yeah, it doesn't
a
really
little
have an
bit.
impact
And there are, as you point out, there are many garages that go lot line to lot line. So it wouldn't, even though it is excessive, and it wouldn't appear to be out of character. And perhaps that's one of the ways they were able to drop the height too by
I think
going
that's
the width.
the idea.
Okay, any further comment? All right, Dylan, did you make a motion?
I did, but of course, sorry, I didn't realize
No
that
worries.
you wanted to make a comment. So
Do you want to just
I'll
restate
remake
it?
the motion to approve these variances with forestry condition number 2 and TTC conditions number 1 and 5.
Okay, motion by Mr. Reid to approve with those conditions. I have a seconder. Mr. McKay, all in favor? Opposed? Oh, you're in favor, Zahir?
Yeah, I think Mr. Reed convinced me.
Okay, he's a very convincing guy.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you. You have your approval. We move on to item 22, 129 Dunvegan Road. This is an application to alter the existing 3.5-story detached dwelling by constructing an integral garage with a car lift, partial front and rear second-story additions, a partial rear 2-story addition, a side third-story addition, a partial side fourth-story addition, a rear porch and a canopy extension with a rear third-story balcony extension above and a widened front driveway. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, an arborist report, and presentation materials from the agent. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry and email correspondence from Transportation Services. We have 2 form letters in support from 123 and 125 Dunvegan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon. Oh, Mr. Bronskill.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm with you virtually now from my desk. Last name Bronskill. First initial D for David, 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400 here as agent for the applicant. Thank you.
Okay. There's a lot here, David. I don't think it's major, but there seems to be a lot here. Maybe just take us through it.
I can, Mr. Chair, and it's partly, even though there's no opposition, and obviously planning has not submitted anything with concerns, given that it's an existing house and some of the variances, I'm not going to say are complicated, perhaps intricate's a better word. I can just quickly go through the presentation and the 6 variances that are in the public notice for you, and I'll focus a little bit on length and depth. I'll talk a little bit about just how the FSI is calculated in terms of the number. And then the north side and driveway widths are largely existing, but I'll just point those out to you. And then I'll also talk a little bit about the balcony, because I know that the balcony is going to seem like a larger balcony area, but I can explain how it's being calculated. So thanks to staff, we can start there with that site plan. That's great. It is a large lot, essentially a double lot, as you can see there. And there is the existing house on the lot today, and the proposal is to alter that existing, essentially 3.5-story detached dwelling. The reason, Mr. Chair, it sometimes is a bit complicated or intricate here is the basement level, because of the grade, is technically considered the first story. And so that's why it's called a 3.5, although sometimes when you're looking at it, it really appears more like a 2.5, and that balcony is really on the second floor, but it's counted as being on the third floor. That grade change also in part results in the FSI because the basement, all of the basement is counted. There's about 300 square meters existing in the basement today. This will have some additional excavation, and the total in the basement will be 502 square meters. If the basement's excluded, the FSI being sought is actually 0.5736. Whereas when you include the basement, you get up to the 0.8386. And in part, Mr. Chair, I think that FSI is a function, frankly, of it being a big lot, because it is a big house, but it is also a big lot. I will show you the map in a moment. Just numerically, we are seeing FSIs around 0.83, and in fact, numerous exceeding them. But just in terms of what you would think of as the main house, it's really 0.5736. This diagram we also put together, I know there's a lot here, but it helps, I think, with the length and depth, just because of the way the house is on the lot and the length and depth are measured. You can see on this diagram, we've tried to group together the proposed building depth, the existing building depth, the proposed building length, and existing building length. So you can see there, existing building length to the back of the house is 29.51. The way it's now actually calculated, it's actually less. It's measured to the back of the breakfast room, so it's 23.14. So although 23.14 requires a variance, the way it's measured now under the bylaw, it's actually less than what is existing. I know that's odd, but that's the way it's being calculated through the zoning review. It's similar with the depth. Again, you can see the depth there, 29.09 is the existing depth. But again, the way the depth is measured from the front yard setback to the back of the main wall at the furthest point of the proposed single-story addition, it's actually a depth that they're calculating at 22.72. I know that's odd, Mr. Chair, but that's the way it was calculated as part of the zoning review and identifying the variances. You can then see on this map just the areas in purple where some additions are being added to the development. The one-story breakfast room is therefore counting to the length and depth that is being measured here. But as you perceive the house, Mr. Chair, I'm going to suggest all of these additions really are tucked in, frankly, in quite a subtle way behind existing portions of the building. Just while we're there with staff, you can see the existing driveway at the north, 6.43. The variance is recognizing that. There are no landscaping variances associated. And the north side yard setback, there's that little hatch there, purple addition, I'm going to say to the left, you can see there. It's a proposed one-story extension garage. You can then see the 0.95 side yard setback. That's the variance picked up. 0.93 is actually existing. But for what's being added, they're picking up the 0.95. And then, Mr. Chair, I know I ran out of time. I'll just quickly do two things for you. Page 5 of the presentation just has the numbers. Obviously, this area has lots of large houses with very significant FSIs, and we've circled in red anything that's above what we're seeking, and there's lots of them. And I'll just quickly touch on the balcony before commending the renderings at the back of the package to you. The balcony, if staff don't mind just quickly flipping to page 10 of the PDF. That's the one. That's great. You can see there's an existing balcony area there. There's a skylight being added in. And to get access around the skylight for maintenance, although it's not really usable space, the balcony is technically increased to 53.68 square meters. So all of that space counts. It is larger than the bylaw, obviously. It is a significant space, but it's essentially a second level courtyard screened by the building itself. And because of the size of the lot and its depth, very far removed from the properties to the east on Forest Hill Road. So overall, I think just the function of the design, using the existing building, the size of the lot, and the subtle nature of the revisions, I'd commend to you the elevations and renderings. But otherwise, Mr. Chair, I think the variances all meet the 4 tests.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel, any questions of the agent? None. I think you've answered everyone's question, so let's take this into committee. Anyone want to take this one on? Pretty large lot.
I'm happy to.
Sure, Peter.
There is a lot happening here, but it's a lot of very small stuff, I think, and most of the new massing is really masked or contained within the structure of the home. And yeah, some of the variances come out odd in terms of how they're measured. But really, I don't see it as being a significant departure from what's existing there, and particularly from the street. And thanks for the explanation about the balcony. That makes sense. So I think that the variances are minor and their impact is minor. So I would move approval subject to urban forestry 1 and 2.
Okay, motion by Mr. Reed to approve, subject to forestry, a seconder. Mr. McCabe, all in favor? You have your approval, sir. I would note that Dunvegan tends to get, applications tend to get a lot of opposition from neighbors. In this case, neighbors were completely on side, which I think is a good thing. And not all that common on the street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item is 23, 319 Armadale. This is an application to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a front third-story addition, a rear three-story addition with rear stairs, and an at-grade patio. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of the subject property, and correspondence in opposition from 321 Armadale.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online as well as 1 registered speaker in opposition.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Roth?
Routh.
Roth.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Simon Routh, and I'm acting as the agent for the owners of 319 Armadale. We're seeking 2 variances today. The first is to replace the existing front dormer with one that is wider. The zoning bylaw permits a dormer that is 50% of the width of the front main walls for a lot of this width, and we're seeking one that is just under 60% of the width. And the second variance is to achieve a floor space index of 0.92. I'll note that the committee has received a letter of objection from the neighbor to the north side. My client reached out to this neighbor on April 7th, asking if she had any questions about the proposed work, and have seen her several times in person since then. She hasn't mentioned them. We only became aware of them when the letter was uploaded to the Application Information Center. I will just say that the variance that we're seeking is in part to allow us to construct an addition that is less deep than we would be permitted to build as of right by taking advantage of a partial third story. Because the house is built prior to 1953, we can build a 17-meter total depth house with an FSI of 0.69. We're seeking to build an addition that is 1.3 meters less than that. I'm happy to speak to any of the concerns in the letter of objection from the neighbor or any of the 4 tests of the Planning Act at the committee's pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Well, why don't we go to the speaker and find out what concerns there may be.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll unmute the owner at 321 Armadale Avenue.
Irene, are you there?
Irene, you have been unmuted. Go ahead. Irene, you have been promoted to become a panelist, so you have full control of the voice commands. Please go ahead.
She's there? Just is there a number we can call her?
So Irene, we will attempt to call you right now, okay? So just bear with me 1 second. Thank you. Hello, Irene.
Hi, it's Irene. Thank you.
Oh, hi.
No problem.
If you could give us your full name and address, please, for the record.
Irene Berezny, 321 Armadale Avenue.
All right, ma'am. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. So everybody's seen the letter. They probably, none of them affect what they're asking for, but it does affect my life. Severe loss of natural light, a lower property value for my house because now there's going to be a big, block wall against the side of my house. I'm concerned about damage to my house. We're on a sand base, and our houses are very close together, so much so that the two east troughs between the houses actually touch. I was wondering why the municipal bylaw state a setback of 2.4 meters, but that wasn't adhered to. Is there an exception for that? There is a cedar tree on the property. I didn't note it on the exceptions for the cedar tree. The drawings also say it's a soft substance all the way to the back. That's not accurate. There's actually a patio at the back of the property. And I know there are rules for how much soft and how much stones that can be laid down. I have a major concern that it's going to be a security risk. I know you say that I need to put up security cameras, but I'm just about to retire and I can't afford another expense. And then so it's not clear how far back it's going to go. I measured the 5.5 from the brick part of their house to the back, brings it up to the cedar, but the drawing makes it out further, kind of into at the end of my patio. So just a little bit of clarity on that would be appreciated. Those are my concerns.
Okay, ma'am, thanks you. We'll put those questions to the agent. I would note you mentioned that you were concerned about the side yard. There is no side yard setback for this application. The applicant is conforming to the bylaws. So, but we will get him back to answer some of the questions you've raised. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Roth.
Yes. So with respect to the loss of light, as I mentioned, the owners of this property can construct as of right an addition that is 1.3 meters longer than this current addition with the same maximum height. There's no variance for main wall height for the rear. In an attempt to reduce the length of the addition, we are integrating a partial third story to reduce the length of that addition. Further to Irene's concerns about disruption of construction, we are also not proposing to build a basement under the addition. The basement will be an at-grade addition. Which will reduce the need for excavation and any potential risk of undermining her foundations. The cedar tree that she notes is not a bylaw protected tree. It is below the DBH specified in the bylaw. And I think those are all of the objections that I can speak to with respect to the Planning Act and the committee's purview, but I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Dylan?
I'm actually surprised there's no side yard setback variance because it is right on the property line, it looks like. Can you just explain that?
So it's considered a lawfully existing setback, provided that you're constructing a rear addition.
No, because sometimes often in rear additions, even if they're following the existing line of the house, we still get the side yard setback thing. So anyway, it's just unusual.
It looks like it's offset in the back though, right? So they've come in a little from the lot line?
Not enough to.
Yeah, again.
Usual. Anyway, I was just surprised by that because normally in these circumstances we would get that as one of the variances. I guess the other question is that the tree, probably, I'm sure maybe it's not big enough to be bylaw protected, but I'm sure that it's a tree that the neighbor uses and appreciates. Can you speak a little bit about any ways that you're going to make sure that it's not damaged?
No, the tree will be removed as part of the addition.
Okay, is it on your side or the other side? It's on your property?
It's on the owner's property. You can see it just on the left of that photo there. It's that small cedar tree.
Okay, right. So, but that's on the owner's property.
It's on the owner's property, yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? None? Okay, let's take this into committee. Zahir.
Chair, with this one, thank you. We've basically got two variances, and I don't think either of them are excessive. The proposal is a very common type of proposal that we see very often in Toronto. There are no issues with this one. I don't believe there are any conditions attached either. So I'd like to move motion to approve with no conditions.
Okay, motion by Mr. Byatt to approve, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, we move on to item number 24. 125 Indian Road Crescent. This is an application to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a front one-story addition. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received April the 11th, 4 photographs of trees on the subject property, and a copy of the email correspondence between the agent and community or city planning staff.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Noor. Address 245 Soroy Road, Vaughan, and I'm the agent for 125 Indian Road, Crescent.
Okay, ma'am, you're proposing to put a small addition in the front?
Yes, that's correct. I did not, yes.
Does anyone need a presentation? You want to go straight to questions? I think the obvious question that the panel's probably going to have is variance number 5, where you've got 0% soft landscaping.
So that's actually the existing situation. We're not like what we're proposing will not change the existing situation.
I understand that. What's the condition of the rear yard now?
It's a driveway.
Oh, because it's a corner lot. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Peter?
Thanks. I have some concerns with the front yard setback. With that addition in the front, then it's going to change the streetscape, right? In terms of how it looks and feels. Can you speak to why that would be appropriate?
If I'm looking now at Google Maps, so it's just like the building length and the building depth will increase, but it will give an additional space that is important for my client. In terms of privacy, there is a tree. I don't know. I don't see much changing happening except like just 2 meters increase in depth. And it will be built on an existing patio.
Okay. Are there other instances in this general area where there are front additions that go kind of against the established trend?
I'm not sure about that, but I know like I was checking to see if there are any comments or concerns from that, so I get an opportunity to discuss any of like the concerns, but I did not receive any.
Okay, thanks.
So this is an unusual configured lot because it's a corner lot. Is the main entrance actually on Abbott?
That's correct.
So this proposed addition, which looks like it's over top of an existing deck or patio, is actually more practically a side addition rather than a front addition. Is that the case?
There was a lot of back and forth with the zoning examiner, and based on the information he has, it was considered a front.
Because your address is technically on Indian Road Crescent, even though the way the house is oriented, it's more on Abbott.
Yes, that was a concern to us. We weren't sure, but we did speak with the zoning examiner,
And given that it's a corner lot, it looks like you don't have many options in terms of putting an addition out, by the looks of it. Okay.
Correct.
All right, any other questions? No. Nope. All right, thank you. We'll take this into committee. Peter, are you still concerned?
No, I mean, I understand. I think it's helpful to see that there is an existing patio there, and it's kind of framed with a sort of trellis that's over it. And I think, in a way, it's almost like a porch enclosure, right? And so I think it's okay. The fact that it's limited to one story, I think, is helpful, and I think maybe I'd tie it to a site plan just to ensure that, because I think it would be a different thing if that was a two-story addition in the front, right? If they decided to put a second
You
story.
want to tie it to elevations then?
Sure, site plan and elevations.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's fine. I mean, I understand it's a constrained lot, and to the rear is, that rear yard, soft landscaping is not good, but I get the fact that they're not touching back there, and it's an existing condition. But the boulevard is pretty well vegetated and cared for, and so I think this is worth supporting. And
Okay, do you want to move a motion?
yeah, I'll move a motion to approve the application. The only condition would be to tie it to site plan and elevations, just to ensure that this, the variance for the front addition is limited to one story.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Reed with those conditions, tying it to plans. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Zahir, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? That's approved. Okay. Item number 25. 228 LONSMOUNT Drive. This is an application to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a three-story side addition with an integral garage, a porch with stairs, a front and rear third-story balconies. This portion of the dwelling will contain one residential dwelling unit. There will be a total of 2 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, previous decision numbers affecting the subject property. We have an arborist report, presentation materials from the agents. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry, and we have materials in opposition from 242 and 233 LONSMOUNT.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person as well as 2 registered speakers in opposition.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Good morning, Chair. Good afternoon,
Morning.
Chair. Good morning, Chair. Good afternoon it is, Chair.
Good afternoon it is.
It's been a long day, Chair.
Yes, indeed. Name and address, please.
Martin Majerski, last name is Mazierski. The address is 88 Scott Street, Unit 3507. Here on behalf of the owners, here just in case they needed to clarify anything. Chair, I think it'd be easiest if we went to that presentation. I thank staff. I think it's already up. I'm going to try to work through some of those slides as I work through the rationale. I think that makes it easiest. So, Chair, just to explain to the committee, again, the presentation is there, but I wanted to summarize again, Chair, the history of the proposal. There was a previous proposal for this property. It was refused by the committee on October 16th, 2024. I spoke to the owners after that application. There was an appeal that was ultimately dropped. It was decided to go back to the committee to present a better proposal. I worked with the owners and the architect. We worked the proposal and have brought the revised proposal here today in front of the committee with reduced massing and elimination of most of the variances. I have an Exhibit 1A, so that's on page 7 of 28 of that presentation. I have a markup of the minor variances from the prior refused Committee of Adjustment decision. I know the neighbors have raised some of this in the prior variances, so that record is there. There's a record of all the variances that have been eliminated. That's 4 of them. And there's also a detailed record of 3 variances that have been improved. So of all the 7 variances that were refused, Chair, 3 have been improved, 4 have been eliminated in the current proposal. And if the staff could please go to exhibit in part 1B. That's on page 10 of 28. Thank you. So is that 10 of 28 there? I think well, I'll
For
go
the chair, this is page 10.
Sorry, I think we could zoom out a little bit on that one. That is correct. That is the correct page. I have a site plan there. I've done the comparison site plans. So thank you. I apologize. Should explain that. That's a comparison of the plans from the previously refused committee at the top, and there's the plans, the site plan from the currently proposed proposal that's in front of the committee today. The bottom proposal explains how the addition has been shortened. There's a step back at the rear of the second story. Sorry, there's an improvement to the front yard setback variance, which has improved from 3.51 to 5.71. From 3.51 to 3.79. The front yard setback of the third story porch has improved from 3.51 to 5.71. The length of the proposal has reduced from 19.88 to it has been reduced down to 19.88 after being at 20.62. And again, that markup shows the shortening of the addition, the step back at the rear of the second story, step back at the rear of the third story, and a step back at the front. Now, if we could just go to, I wanted to now proceed, Chair, just to the specific variances. I'm going to have actually one more exhibit, Exhibit 1.3. That's on page 11 of 28. And the same thing here, Chair. This is a copy of a drawing of the previously refused side elevation from the west side versus the currently proposed side elevation. So, Chair, that exhibit will explain to the tribunal that previously the proposal had a 20.37 meter length across that distance there. Currently, that length has been reduced to 17.77 meters at the second story, and I've got another exhibit later. I'm going to address the length at the third story. There have been, again, material step backs at the front of the building, a step back at the second story, and a step back at the third story. So again, that shows the reduced massing from the previously refused proposal. Again, the length there is at 17.77 meters, and I'll circle back to this, Chair. That is a material improvement to what was previously refused. And here, Chair, and that length is, Chair, is barely over the maximum permitted 17-meter length. So again, the seventh story is barely over the permitted, if measured in that way. And again, my presentation explains that's not the way it's measured for this lot, but I wanted to explain what the length looks like from the lot to the west, which is the nearest really adjacent property, Chair. So to the next slide, Chair, I wanted to go to the front yard setback specifically. If we could still please go to page 12 of 28 of that presentation. If we could zoom in a little bit on that one, it's just the one this time. That little pink shaded area, that represents the front yard setback variance associated with the third story porch. That's the only part of the variance. I'm going to come back to this slide for the blue area, but again, that pink area is the only part that's actually non-compliant of the bylaw. It's a little pinch point. If we could just please go on to the next slide there, that's applicable, page 13 of 28. And on this exhibit, if the panel can see, that green box there represents the third story porch relative to the front yard setback. That's that angled line kind of going across the property. It shows also and I'll come back to this slide again for the other variances, but the green box shows the location of the front third story porch, and the pink line represents the front main wall alignment at the only adjacent building at 230 LONSMOUNT to the west, which is on the bottom on this drawing, Chair. So actually, if we could just actually jump to the next exhibit, very next page.
I'm just going to ask you, you're well past your time. I've given you a little bit, I'll give you a little bit more, but if you could kind of summarize for us.
I'll be very quick then. So this survey, this exhibit here exemplifies where the building at 230 LONSMOUNT actually aligns. It shows where that front wall aligns. And I have that there to address the front yard setback variance and really why that's the only neighbor on that side that I've drawn the length variance for. Sure, that front yard setback is an extension on the survey. That relates to my other exhibits, Chair. It shows that for anybody walking down that street, and if I If I could jump to, maybe ideally I'll jump, because we're summarizing, to the exhibits on page, Chair, on page 17 and 18. So 17 I think is best. That's the view of the side of the property as currently viewed, and that shows behind it 230 LONSMOUNT Drive that sticks out past it. The property at 230 LONSMOUNT Drive has a front yard setback of 6.11 meters, whereas the property of 228 LONSMOUNT Drive has a current front yard setback of 3.39 meters. Nonetheless, it can be visibly seen that how that property at 230 LONSMOUNT sticks out way past the current property of 228 LONSMOUNT Drive. The addition share is simply going to go kind of in the middle of those two setbacks, the way that the bylaw means to transition front yard setbacks at these buildings. So the bylaw either averages setbacks at the two adjacent lots or takes the setback from the one adjacent lot. The way that the addition is going to look, it basically sits in between the existing building that's on the lot and the addition that's going to go in between kind of the existing building and the building at 230. So it's going to be that gradual setback the bylaw allows for.
So I'm going to stop you there. We can get to any other items through questions. Dylan has a question now. We do have speakers lined up.
Yeah, just page 12.
Yes.
So you have the pink and the blue, but that's on the third level, but there's a level below that that's also sticking out, right?
Yes, that's, I have an exhibit that explains those setbacks at that story completely.
But those are further into the front yard setback.
Yes, so if
that's just, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes. That on page 10, I think page 10 is a good one. On the bottom is the marked up site plan of the current proposal versus the existing. It shows that the existing 3.79 meter setback at the front, and it shows the 3.39 meter setback of the existing building on top of that. So that's
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Hey, and my, so the addition height is 10 meters, right?
Yeah, but there's no variance, Chair.
No, that's what I was just going to say. There's no variance, so you're complying with the bylaw. Was the previous application
There was
similarly?
height variances, there's little tweaks. Right now, there's rules in the bylaw about how much of the wall has to comply, and it has been reworked and discussed with the examiner. So the wall heights now comply, Chair.
Okay. All right. Maybe we can go to our speakers.
Yes. Whoever is here in person that wishes to speak, you can come up one by one.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Takashi Yamashita. I am the owner with my wife at 233 LONSMOUNT Drive. In the last minute of today, I will read two other letters that some neighbors gave to me, so it won't take any extra time. By way of background, our family moved into the neighborhood around 2012. I'm an architect. I'm also a real estate developer. And I'm reasonably familiar with the bylaws to the extent my wife and I are making improvements on our home, and we're able to work with the planning team with no variances, but that's to our needs. I appreciate other people have different needs, so I'm not passing judgment that way, but I am reasonably familiar with what the bylaws are in the area. I do have a presentation. It's a relatively short one, maybe 5 pages. I'll just maybe, if it's able to be called up, that'd be great. Thank you. There's this one here, and then go to the next page. Thank you. Right, this was just, I did appreciate learning today how there's been adjustments, let's say, to the design of the application where some variances have been, are no longer applicable. I would say that there's still 3, I guess, on the table. One has to do with a balcony that's higher up. One is the front yard setback, and one is overall building length. I'll maybe just look at and I have another set of comments that are not on a variance, but I'll get to the planning ones first. On the matter of planning, I think the front yard setback's very important. If we look at the next slide, and the source of this is Google Maps, so it's a pretty readily accessible document. just by orientation here, we're looking at the context of Lonsmount Drive. You can see Lonsmount on the bottom of the page is south, so north is at the top. On the left-hand side, pardon me, that's Bathurst Street. And so what Lonsmount Drive does when it comes from the St. Clair West subway station, when I walk from time to time, it's a north-south street, but then it starts to gently bend towards an east-west orientation, and the rationale of the bend is the Cedar Vale Ravine itself. So the curvature of all the streets, still you can see it's kind of windy. It's in response to the natural topography of Toronto at this location. So the next slide shows just an overlay. You can see how all the houses, whether the street is going straight or the street is bending a bit or otherwise, the front yard setback is really a character defining element of this part of the city. It's not just one house or what's beside the next house. The whole street has observed and I think is thriving off the street character of the front yard setback, whether it's at a curved part or a straight part. So none of us made this curve, but this is what's here. And so we just observe that that's an important situation. And if the next slide here, we zoom in, and if I could just trouble you to zoom in just a little bit on the scale, thank you. You can see approximately, this is the site plan as it currently is. And you can see that part of the part of the house does encroach. It's a nice brick piece that does encroach, so to speak. It's relatively low, etc. And you can see where the red kind of curves. So it's curving in parallel. But the important thing on this side here, as I look to conclude.
I know I don't want to interrupt, but you've got about a minute left. And
I'm observant.
To do some things. So.
No problem. I will be on time. The blue portion is still the buildable area of this site. This is a site that has a front yard and 2 side yards that converge. So that hashed area represents an area that is buildable. So the rationale that it was presented that it's a difficult site, difficult maybe in the eye of the beholder, there is a lot of buildable area. And to the southern portion, for example, 226, that site has been built up quite nicely without having a problem in its relationship to Lonsmount Drive. So there's lots of space to build. Now, I'm going to read very briefly. This is a letter from Jennifer and Noah Sheen. It's short. We, Jennifer and Noah Sheen of 221 Lonsmount Drive, Toronto, oppose the application. Not only do we concur and support the Committee of Adjustment's prior decision made on October the 12th, 2024, refusing the then application that is essentially very similar to what is presented now, but we have also additional concerns. Firstly, the front yard setback encroachment.
You're really going over time, so
I will read.
Let's just acknowledge that there's concerns there. Do you have another letter?
There was concerns. The last letter, it's a handwritten, very quick napkin. Basically, it says, "We are the residents of 237 Lonsmount Drive. We're concerned about the minor changes. This is a single-family street and area, and to allow a second unit would change the character of the area."
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we get the gist, sir. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you, committee.
Any questions of this speaker? Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. We have another individual. Sir, do you want to come up?
It's been a while since I saw you guys here the last time in October. It's nice to see you. I'm Gary Davis. I'm 242 Lonsmount.
Okay, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, I prepared a presentation for the young man to bring up. In essence, it's like Takashi's. Takashi and I and the rest of the neighbors think this is just more of the same. This is the elevation of the last proposal. It bumps into the old house. It doesn't recognize the streetscape, and it projects forward nastily into the side yard setback, or the front yard setback, which those 4 points, the reasons the Committee of Adjustment refused it are still applicable. So let's go to the next one. This is the contextual view of 226 versus, and you can see 228 in the background. 226 and 228 both faced east. They front on Lonsmount Drive. And I disagree with the examiner's idea that the setback to 226 wasn't relevant. It would seem that it does, that it is relevant, and even though it's more substantial, 7.7 meters. So next slide, you can read all the other stuff. So this was basically, I put this together just saying it's not in the spirit and intent of the zoning and development bylaw, in our opinion. It's not minor. And then the next. This is the front view. So I took I didn't set it back a little bit at the third floor, but this red bulk is the encroachment. You can see it on drawing A0.0 that the line, the arbitrary line of the setback is 6.1 line, and that the encroachment reduces the setback to 3.79, as the councillor mentioned. That means it projects 2.32 meters into the required front yard setback. By the way, that's nearly 8 feet. If you go back to the last slide, I'm sorry, really quick, you'll read that I've noted that it's 37.9% reduction of as in the encroachment. So let's keep going, and then you guys can read all this a little later. That's the yellow line, or the orangey line. That's the encroachment of the old house from whenever it was built in the 40s or 50s. So that encroached a little bit, but it's not as significant. The next slide, please. This is the view from the east. So again, this is the elevation that shares a relationship to 226 and not 230. There is the set yard, the red bulk. You can see and I did this rudimentarily. I should have jogged the thing back a little bit towards the upper floor, but it's important to recognize that the first and second floors project majorly into the front yard setback on that corner. And the little orange line, the roof slopes back, but there wasn't any way for me to dash the line. Next slide, please. This is the encroachment into the building length, and this addition at the back is just pure. I mean, it's greed. Why not do it? Just plan it correctly. Next slide. Get back to that 37.97. Is it a big number or is it a little number? Next slide, please. So if it was your annual return on your portfolio, you'd say that's a pretty nice number, 37.97% annually. That'd be great, but it's not. It's an encroachment into a setback required for the benefit of the neighborhood. It's not. It doesn't. It's just something that creates livability, and it's absolutely not a minor number. Next slide, please. This is the elevation of the existing building, and what I want to point out here, grade is an amazing term. You can see the grade is not at the front door. It grows. There's 3 steps up plus the threshold. Next slide. Same way here. The emission of the window wells has created an artificial-looking surface. And next slide, you'll see it in the establishment of grade. Now, I'm not challenging the established grade calculation. I'm concerned that you're looking at a drawing that has erroneous information on it. Next slide.
I'm just going to ask you if you could wrap up, please.
Yeah, I'm done. Here's the summary.
Okay.
It's hard to see, but it's the four reasons that this was rejected before was that it didn't maintain the spirit and intent of the zoning bylaw, nor the official plan, nor was it appropriate for the development of the area, and it was not minor.
Okay.
Last slide, I think.
I thought that was your summary.
No, there's, so that was, it's not minor. And then the next slide, there's what's, I like this quote. Right's right. If no one's doing it, wrong is wrong if everyone's doing it. It
All right.
applies to all of us.
All right, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for that flourish. Any questions of this speaker? Okay. Thank you very much. We get the agent back. Okay, sir, you have 5 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Chair. I will try to be brief and just focus on some of the points raised by the neighbors. Chair, with respect to the first presenter, I believe the presenter was an architect and developer, mentioned that he put forward together a proposal without minor variances because he had worked with planning. I wanted to just remind the tribunal, if it wasn't noted on the record, that this proposal has not raised any concerns from the city planning department. With response to some of the actual other comments, again, just on the whole idea of the front yard setback, I think staff, if you could please go to Exhibit 3A, please. Again, that's the one on page 13. I think that's a very critical exhibit. The one on the page that follows simply kind of explains it and explains where that pink line is coming from. Again, the pink line is the front wall of the building adjacent at 230 LONSMOUNT. And I'm going to address some of the concerns from both sides really mentioned here. They're concerned about the transition from also the property to the south. When the examiner determined the required front yard setback for this property, they simply looked at that building along the red line. That building has a front yard setback based on the regular lot of 6.11 meters. That's the required front yard setback because the examiner looked at this building and saw that the other building was so far away, and given the location of this addition, when determining the required front yard setback, they did not average the properties at 226 and 230. They simply looked at the property at 230 LONSMOUNT, looked at the required front yard setback of 6.11 and set the required front yard setback at that number. Again, that red line shows how that wall, which is technically set back at 6.11 meters, which I showed on the photo sticks out way past this building, is actually located with that 6.11 meter setback. And again, the same exhibit shows that the proposed addition at the front has a greater setback than was referred to the neighbors as a nice two-story structure, but in reality it's a two-story structure. Most of the actual number on the encroachment is a two-story structure. Much less of that third story actually encroaches into the front yard setback, and both of them are still very comfortably set back behind the front wall at 230 LONSMOUNT. I think just to address one of the concerns about this being a single detached neighborhood and the proponent putting forward a second unit. Yes, the current lot has really one building on it, and this addition is very much kind of like a second large size unit. This building, through a fourplex, will have a total of 16 bedrooms between all the 4 units. I have policy attached I have a very specific official plan policy attached to the end of my staff report. It's Exhibit 7 at the end of my staff report. Talks about official plan policies in the City of Toronto that encourage large units in multiplexes. The official plan policy is very specific to multiplex variances and proposals, talk about a preference for large units, definitely steering applicants towards having large units. This current proposal, my apologies. My apologies, committee. I'm presenting the one right after this as well. I want to take back what I said about the 16 units in the fourplex. What I wanted to discuss is simply the fact that we have a second unit. My apologies. I take back the 16 unit fourplex. I have an application right after this that has 16 units. But the second unit there's provincial policies that promote second units, and there's city policies that promote second units in the lots. There's official plan policies and zoning bylaw policies that favor these things. So again, the municipal level and the provincial level encourages additional units. The idea that a proposal shouldn't be supported because it proposes a second unit a lot goes counter to all the official plan policies, zoning bylaw policies that are more flexible for multiplexes, and provincial guidance on promoting multiplexes with special preferences in low-rise neighborhoods in order to create more housing in these low-rise yellow belt neighborhoods. So, and the last comment about the established grade from the neighbor, I tried to sit down and discuss that with the neighbor before the hearing. I did want to correct that point. The established grade shown on that on those plans is based on the way established grade is measured in the zoning bylaw, which has to do with basically the grade at the side lot lines at the required side yard setback on both sides, averaged out for the property. It has nothing to do with window wells or any of the things mentioned by the neighbor or in their presentation. The established grade is measured in accordance to the zoning bylaw. That concludes my comments.
All right. Thank you so much. Panel, questions? Dylan?
Yeah, so one of the concerns last time was that the purpose of this extra extension was really unclear. It seems clearer now. This is going to be a secondary suite. I was just wondering, why there's a door between the main house and the secondary suite.
Open up those plans in a second here. Basement. I see that. I do see that door. It is. I couldn't comment very much. I presume that door would be locked, and I can speak to the fact that as long as there's a separate entrance in these units, if I had one unit partially above another, it could still be defined as a duplex. This is not a duplex per se because one unit is not above another. But the fact that there is a door connecting the two units does not negate the fact that something is a secondary suite as long as it has a completely independent entrance. And if on the same plans, if one were to look to the left, just behind the garage door, there is that separate entrance at the front right there.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, let's take it into committee. Three of you were on this application when it was before us last time, so I'm going to ask you guys now what you think. Who wants to go first? Peter?
Sure, I can start. I think it's a lot better now than it was last time. Last time, as Dylan said, there were questions. It was just hard to kind of figure out what was happening, what the intent of the proposal was. I think there have been significant improvements around the massing, stepping at the front and back. But from my perspective, the main issue that was there for me last time still remains is the front yard setback. And I understand that given the complexities of this curve and the corner lot and calculating that number is not clear, but I find that it sticks out too far. Even though you've got this very large structure that is to the right of this property, I think that it comes out too much, and I think that has a negative impact on the streetscape. And we said last time that at the last time this was heard, there's a lot of flexibility on this lot. Like there's a lot of room where additions can go without having to push into that front yard setback. And whether it's not for me to determine why this is being put forward, but I think that there are other options to more sensitively develop on this site that wouldn't detract from that front setback. I do think it's great adding an additional unit in neighborhoods like this. It doesn't happen that often, and so I find that a very positive thing. But in its current form, because of the front yard setback, I can't support it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Dylan, you were on this before?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of on the fence on this one. It's definitely improved. Also, we've gotten much more clarity about what it's for, which I appreciate. I don't really like it that much in terms of how it fits with the streetscape, but we're not making aesthetic judgments, really. And also, I mean, the fact is also that the next door that it will be beside is also kind of similar in terms of being a kind of a more modern, elongated form. So it doesn't clash with its direct immediate neighbor to the same extent. It really doesn't fit with the existing house, but that there's no requirement that it do that, or not a strong requirement. The reason that it's the way it is because they're trying to do a two-car garage. If they were to set it back further, they couldn't get 2 cars into the garage. Which is not, isn't really a compelling reason necessarily. They could have a 1-car integral garage, push the whole thing back a little bit, and it would fit much better. On the other hand, if they pushed it back more, then it would impact the neighbor more as well. So I don't love it, but at the same time, it is a secondary suite that's desirable.
Fourplex, right?
No, it's not. It's a secondary suite. He was getting confused. The next one is going to be a 4-plex, which he's also presenting. This is only a single
Fair enough. Thank you.
Single family size secondary.
Thank you for that. I was confused as well.
Yeah. The applicant was confused, so it's understandable. So anyway, I'm kind of on the fence, honestly. Like the current variances aren't that enormous, and it is still behind 230. So yeah, I don't really know.
Gary?
So, when we looked at that Google map, I felt that's the problem here, and that is, it's encroaching into the front yard in a way that seems to be disparate from what the others are looking at. So I have that same issue and problem. I don't agree with the front yard variance.
Okay. Is it here?
Yeah, thank you. Picking up from Dylan Reed's comments, I think aesthetically it's an issue, but then the neighboring house is similar in the sense of what looks like a massing relative to the existing structures. But again, that's an architectural design issue that I don't have control over. I am not too concerned about the front yard setback of the garage in particular, because the existing house is already almost similarly in that with a similar setback. So I think in many ways, while I may not like it, I think it is supportable.
Okay, for my part, I similarly struggling with this one. I wander around LONSMOUNT, and with a couple very exceptions, the architectural style of that street in this neighborhood is much more traditional, and this proposal is bold, is the way I would say it, relative to the other architectural elements in this neighborhood. If it were seeking a height variance, I think I would be very concerned, as I guess folks were the first time it was around. But we are routinely approving 4-plexes, 4 stories, 3 stories in neighborhoods all across this city. In part because of the importance of introducing additional rental accommodation into existing neighborhoods. This doesn't do that as much. So the trade-off from public policy is a little bit tougher to justify, in the sense that, something that's a little bit more bolder in existing neighborhoods can be offset by the public policy, achievement of public policy goals of bringing more rental accommodation into existing neighborhoods. This doesn't have that feature. Having said that, I wish there was more accommodation into this. It would be good to have more rental into this area. But the variances, I come back to the variances that are before us are relatively minor. Peter makes a really good point about the front yard setback, and that was one of the major tripping points the previous time. but I look at the house that's right next door, and frankly, it is out, I think it'll even be out further than this one that is proposed. So I'm not as sure that the front yard setback issue is as relevant given the juxtaposition to that property. I think it's unique because it's a curved corner lot. That's what we're all fussed about. It's just a different lot. But if I look at the variances before us and the fact that the applicant has gone back and really tried to make some changes and take out the more egregious things that I think caused it to fail the first time, I'll be quite honest with you, it would be nice to have a little bit different architecture on this one. I'm not an architecture expert, but at least the house next door, the new one, had a peaked roof, and it did present itself a little bit differently to the neighborhood. This is a flat roof, so it's a little bit different. But based on the variances, I think I'm going to support it. So, long-winded summary. Sorry about that, but I'll look to someone for start us off with a motion. Peter, do you want to? You don't want to do it?
It sounds like the ayes have it, so maybe maybe Dylan.
Dylan?
Maybe Zahir wants to.
Oh, Zahir, did you want to make a motion?
Sure, Chair.
Sorry.
I'll take it on if nobody else is. Yeah, I just to preface, I think the fact that there's been such a reduction in number of variances requested is commendable. And when, as you pointed out, the variances before us in general are not excessive. Having said that, I think this is a supportable application, and it'll be the structure will be next to a structure that similarly has a similar architectural look to it. So I'd like to move a motion to approve this application. I believe there are forestry conditions 2 and 3, and I don't believe there are any others. I did have one concern, that is, I was looking at the balconies, and I don't know if any of the balconies on the 3rd floor require any screening. Perhaps I could just go back and ask.
Well, why don't you just propose that? I think the 3rd floor balconies actually could benefit from some screening.
Okay, great. So I'd like to move a motion to approve with forestry conditions 2 and 3, and the 3rd floor balconies to have privacy screening, and I think it would be on the east and west sides, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Byatt to approve that conditions, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Okay, opposed. Peter Reed is opposed. That motion to approve carries. You have your approval. Thank you. You're just sitting right there, aren't you? Okay, we move on to item number 26. 504 Scarborough Road. This is an application to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a complete second and third-story additions with covered front and rear balconies, a rear three-story addition with a basement level, a front covered porch with stairs, and a rear ground floor covered deck. Also to construct a rear exterior staircase that will access each level. There will be a total of 4 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans, elevations received April 25th, 4 photographs of the subject property, a covering letter from the agent, presentation materials from the agent. We have staff review, a report from Urban Forestry and Metrolinx Advisory. We have correspondence in opposition from 506 Scarborough Road.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person and 2 registered speakers in opposition.
Okay, sir, for the record, your name and address again.
Thank you, Chair. Martin Mazurski, M-A-Z-I-E-R-S-K-I, 88 Scott Street, Unit 3507 in Toronto.
Great, thank you. We have a couple folks who want to speak to this item as well, so we'll need a presentation. And if I could just ask you to keep it to 5?
I promise to watch myself, Chair. Thank you. I'm going to jump very quickly to the file history, Chair. The current owner put forward a minor variance proposal in 2023. The purpose of the application made in 2023 was very similar to the purpose of application as described in the public notice to this application, meaning it involved alteration to an existing one-story detached dwelling, construction one-story addition at the rear, a complete and third-story addition, balconies, spiral staircase, rear ground floor wood deck, rear walkout basement, and a total of 4 units. That application was approved, Chair, by the committee.
Hold on here a second. I'm going to stop you. Stop the clock for a second. I don't have that in my package. Usually when we see a previous decision, it's included in the background material. And I don't have anything. Sabrina, I guess you guys don't either.
Chair, I do have it in my actual presentation, if that helps. It starts on page 5 of 84.
Yeah, you can do that, but I'm just double checking here. Because it's germane to our deliberations, right? If you've already received approval of certain elements, it factors into our decision-making process.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is a previous decision, file number A1057/23TEY. Is that
Showing that on
the decision that you're referring to?
Yeah, it's A105723TY, correct.
Okay.
And I do have that on page 5 of the
All right,
presentation.
apparently we've got it. So if you could maybe, as part of your presentation, just reflect on the changes from that to this.
Thank you very much. I will focus very much on that. So after that Committee of Adjustment approval, Chair, there is a building permit was issued. Building permit is in Exhibit 2 of the presentation that starts on page 13 of 84. If any of the panel members wanted to look at it, all the drawings are there. During the construction process, it was discovered that the pre-existing northern wall had been compromised, and that the pre-existing northern wall at the basement and first story level would have to be supported during and after the construction process. A signed and stamped engineering report explaining the structural issues in more detail is attached as Exhibit 3 to the presentation. That starts on page 27, if anybody wanted to look at that in more detail. I wanted to quickly go to page 36 of 84 of the presentation. Yeah, so if we could zoom in on that, maybe zoom in a little bit on that northern wall. This is at the basement level. So what happened is, sorry, staff, could we zoom in like a little bit, please? Yeah, so if anybody can see that existing wall at the basement level, yeah, zoom out a little bit. I just wanted to look at the north side where that red line is drawn. Yes, perfect. So that existing wall at the basement and actually in first story level of the existing first story will remain in place as is. That is actually the basis of the legal non-conforming side setback on that north side. What happened during the construction, as explained in the engineering report, there were structural issues of that wall, again at the basement and first story level. Therefore, a concrete structure was built around it on the perimeter on the outside of it to solidify the structure, avoid dangerous engineering situation. If you see that wall, that building wasn't pushed. That red line represents the difference between the building permit and the current proposal, and it also represents the entirety of the minor variance. That 20 centimeters is the support structure to maintain the basement and first story wall. And if we go to the page, if you see that structure is extended all the way to the back, that thick wall to maintain that compromised wall at the front, there's a 20-foot concrete footing all in all, trying to maintain the structure and keeping it up all the way to the roof. If you go to the second page, you'll see something, the page that follows, please. This is page 38 of 84. And maybe, sorry, one page down, same thing. This basically shows on the first story, the same thing that's happened is basically that concrete structure was extended upwards, and that red line, that red area represents the only difference between the building permit and the proposal. There's a massing on that floor, and it represents the only part of the minor variance. Again, that line, that supporting structure, for structural reasons, again, 20-foot concrete footings is those concrete footings that have created the 20 centimeters in extra width maintain steel beams that now go up all the way to the roof to maintain the basement walls and to maintain the first-story walls all the way to the roof. So the entire variance for the whole proposal is tied to these 20-foot footings and extended upwards through steel beams to put the building up against the wall. Again, the planning rationale for the proposal, Chair. The required minimum setback is 0.64. Again, as per the legal non-conforming, the difference is the 20 centimeters for the support structure. That is the entirety of the variance. I have photos, a lot of photos starting in Exhibit 5, starting on page 47 of 84, showing a lot of very similar side yard setbacks. These photos illustrates that many of these properties have non-compliant setbacks. Some of these setbacks may have been approved by variances. Many will be legal non-conforming setbacks of the original buildings that predated the standard in the bylaw. And the legal non-conforming setbacks involving additions to original buildings that predated the standard in the bylaw. So again, there might be additions to the original non-conforming. The photos show an aggregate side yard setback less than 3 feet between these buildings, which is less than 0.9 meters. Even though, as per the photos, the side walls have windows, which would, absent a legal non-conforming wall or minor variance, require side yard setbacks of 0.9 meters, which would mean that those setbacks between walls of windows, in theory, would be 1.8 meters if they had windows. If they didn't have windows, there should be 0.45. And there's many examples there that look like they're less than 0.45 because the aggregate setback is less than 0.9 despite the windows. Again, there's a comprehensive photo set there, Chair, explaining the character of the neighborhood. And just to summarize, the intent and purpose of the official plan is to manage the character of the neighborhood. The zoning bylaw implements that intent and that official plan. The setbacks are consistent with the neighborhood. I'm going to address the impact later in my response to the neighbors. Last comment, Chair, is this is the 16 units. So when we're talking about special considerations, there will be 16 bedrooms in this fourplex. In this revised proposal as it stands in front of the committee today, there'll be a total of 16 bedrooms supported in this fourplex when it's completed.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
Panel,
I appreciate the little bit of leniency at the end.
Any questions, panel?
Yes, Chair, if I may.
Yes, here.
Just a quick one. Thank you for the explanation about the side yard issue and the concrete wall. I was just looking at your drawings and the west elevation. You've got a rooftop deck?
I don't believe there's a rooftop deck on the plans. 1 second.
Am I looking at the wrong wrong application? Oh, you know what? I think I'm looking at. Am I looking at the Parkside Drive? Oh, no.
No, you're right.
You've got a spiral staircase going up. So on this drawing, third floor plan, there's a spiral stair, but there seems to be one more level. Yeah, up there. So on the top left,
Chair, so
there's access to the roof.
So I do spot that right now. Thank you for pointing out. I recognize I didn't that area. Chair.
Sorry, I'm a throw.
Chair, if I may comment,
if you look at the west elevation, it's quite clear that there is a spiral staircase going up to the roof.
Sure, I do recall that that's on updated plans. I acknowledge I had this discussion earlier with my client, and my understanding was they weren't going to introduce one. I think this was one of the recent revisions where I didn't catch in earlier plans. I just wanted to go on the record because I've had this discussion with my client. If the panel felt like this rooftop deck was at all a problem, I'm happy that the panel adjust the decision and eliminate that rooftop deck. That was, again, discussed with my client. There was discussions going back with the architect. I'd advised them not to add a rooftop deck. I think something might have been lost in translation when the plans were most recently updated to show an additional detail that came with my cover letter. And I missed that update to those plans there. I'd spoken with my client. I discouraged them. I didn't think it should be part of this proposal. If it's an issue to the committee.
Well, it's an issue in the sense that it wasn't part of the application that received an approval previously. And rooftop decks have a way of getting neighbors' attention. It is something that often neighbors are concerned about: noise, visual overlook, and everything. So it wasn't part of the first application that was approved. you and your client might be well advised to remove that now.
Chair, like I said, Chair, I'm happy to remove that. It was my advice to my client. I didn't realize, again, I think it might have been lost in translations of discussion with the architect. I'm happy to remove that. I'm not requesting a rooftop deck today.
All right. Good catch, Zahir. All right. Is there any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you. We'll go into committee.
Sorry, through you, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
they're speakers.
Yes.
Oh, beg your pardon.
So we have.
Second time today.
The owner at 506 Scarborough Road. We will unmute them.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. If you have your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Man Tham. I live at 506 Scarborough Road.
Okay, ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. I have submitted a letter expressing my strong opposition to this application. Can I have the presenter pull up my letter? There are 4 reasons and a few pictures that I want to walk you through what we are dealing with. But to start, I just want to say that I'm actually pro-housing. I have myself developed a 4-plex on my side, so I know what this owner is trying to do. Presenter, if you can scroll to the pictures, I'll just talk to the committee about my 4 concerns. Thank you. If you leave it at figure 1. Okay, so first of all, I am very concerned about significant loss of privacy between the 2 houses. As you can see in the picture, the 2 red circles are the windows that look directly into each other. My property is on the right side, his property is on the left side. Right now, there's already a direct line of sight. If you reduce the setback, that's going to further create more intrusion, reduce the distance between the 2 windows, and creating more privacy concerns. That's reason number 1. Then reason number 2, if you can scroll down to the second picture. As you can appreciate, my side is already a 4-plex. Their side is a 4-plex. They have built this foundation wall outside of the existing wall, because they said, you know, the existing wall is not strong, they need to do this, fine, they did it. But then if we approve this, they are able to now extend this wall all the way up 4 stories high at a 0.44 reduced setback from the property line. This is gonna block all the sunlight to my side. And if you can scroll down to the next picture. As you can see from the back, it's a very narrow alleyway. Our 2 houses are going to be 4 stories, giant monster 4-plex with a narrow alleyway that's about 25 foot long. During wintertime, there'll be no sunlight. It's going to be bad for snow removal. That's why this setback is not acceptable. It's going to really make the space really crowded. Next reason is, if you can scroll down, this applicant also showed like a successive kind of manipulation of the zoning process. If you look at the, sorry, can you go to figure 6? If you look at our bylaws, the required setback for a 4-plex, clause 3A should be 0.9 meters for any walls with windows. But right now, they are asking for 0.44 meter setback with windows. How they are able to do this is because rather than pursuing a new build, they have gone the route to alter the existing single-story dwelling. They were able to retain the legal non-conforming setback of 0.64. And now, in August, they built this foundation wall that's only 0.44 meters. So successively, they are able to reduce the setback. I feel that this is a pre-planned encroachment on their end, and it compromises the integrity of our planning process. If you can scroll down to the last picture. The last reason is also this applicant has shown ongoing disregard for bylaws and neighbor safety. You can see from figure 7 and figure 8, during construction, because they have to excavate really deep, 15 to 20 feet deep, they have severely damaged my property. This is the back walkway. At one point, it was all gone, exposing my foundation for over 2 months last summer. I have escalated to Toronto Building. They issued 2 notices of compliance, but the applicant ignored that as well. They have also built their construction fence on my property for all of summer. They also did not get my approval. They refused to remove it. The careless conduct extended to other neighbors, who is the other speaker, and also on city infrastructure. If you look at the walkway in front of their house, it's completely damaged. Now, to conclude everything, I have to do the repairs to fix my driveway, my stairs, and my walkway. They still haven't reimbursed me. So I don't understand why we even want to contemplate this application. Having built a fourplex myself, I understand the economics. I understand what they're doing. They didn't have to be this greedy. They didn't have to go this far to cut corners. I respectfully ask the committee to reject the application.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions? No. Now our next speaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can hear from the owner at 502 Scarborough Road.
Hello, Mr. Breckus.
Paul Brickis, you have been unmuted. Hi, Paul, go ahead. You have been unmuted.
Yes, hi, my name is Paul Brickus. I'm at 500 Scarborough Road. My mother is at 502 Scarborough Road. I'm not sure if there have been a few variances already approved by the committee, I believe on height and encroachment already, or setback, I should say. They were considered minor variances, but once again, now we're facing another variance. I'm not sure if past history of this site, the builder and the owner, affects the decision in this case, but the oopsies are getting a little bit excessive. So in this particular case, it looks like they've already poured the foundation for this encroachment. In other words, they're asking for permission and going, oops, once again. The past oopsies, I think my neighbor at 506 had photos of the damage to her property. The worst damages happened to my mother's property at 502 Scarborough Road, which we're still trying to, working with an engineer, trying to determine what sort of damage has been done to the house because of the excavation there. There have been 2 orders to comply that have been issued regarding shoring up to prevent damage to 506 and 502 Scarborough Road. Unfortunately, they didn't really comply quickly enough in the case of my mother's house, and I'm sorry I did not have time to send you photos of the damage done to her property due to the excavation. But basically, the one for my mother's house that was issued on June 18th was basically ignored. And I'm sorry, that was for 506. July 31st was basically ignored, and on August 8th of this past year, major collapse happened on my mother's property, and which took out the end bridge gas meter, the gas line, and made my mother's front veranda unusable. In order to remedy that was issued. I understand that this does encroach on the north side property up against 506. I do ask if this committee does approve this, that you take away the ability to have windows on the north side. Because so far there's been very little consequence to the oopsies on this site. I really appreciate your help and your time, and thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, panel? None? Thank you. That's it for speakers. All right, sir. You've heard some concerns, particularly around construction and other matters. I wonder if you could take no more than 5 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very quick. To address the concerns raised by the first neighbor about 506, there was a privacy concern. I was hoping, if my presentation's up there, if you could please go to the photos in Exhibit 6 on page 66 to 70. So that's Exhibit 6 attached to my presentation, page 66 to 70. It's photos of the south elevation at 506 Scarborough Road. What those photos demonstrate, Chair and panel, is that there's no windows on that property at 506 Scarborough Road. with the exception of the one window. If you can see it, if you freeze at that photo right there, that one window, you can see through the window on the right. That's the window behind the kitchen. So that, yes, that's the kitchen window. That's the existing location of the kitchen window at 504 Scarborough Road, and it has a window at 506 Scarborough Road on the other side. That's the only window at 506 Scarborough Road facing in this direction. That's the one complained about the neighbor and privacy issues. To reiterate, the addition on this building is not shifting that wall anywhere closer than what's in the building permit on the legal non-conforming wall. It is simply making the wall thicker. Therefore, the kitchen that's on the inside of that wall will not be any closer to that neighbor than it is right now. Because again, we're thickening the wall on the outside, but we're not bringing the living space anywhere closer for privacy reasons. And another quick point about that window. If we looked at the survey, which is on page 72 of 84 of the presentation, I've got a markup there of the existing side setback on that lot line. Depending on which part of the survey one looks at, that existing side yard setback at that lot to that wall where the window is either 2.83 meters, I believe, or 2.88 meters. It's on the survey that's in the Committee of Adjustment record. So if you were to adjust, let's say, the lower of those two numbers, 2.83 meters plus 0.44 meters, the total separation between those two walls with the windows in them would be 3.27 meters. And again, and the bylaw dictates that if walls have windows in them, they're supposed to be set back by 0.9 meters. So two windows that comply with that bylaw would be 1.8 meters apart at least. In this case, we will be at least 3.27 meters from that wall. And again, just with respect to the location of that window, the fact that the window at 506 Scarborough Road facing the window at 504 Scarborough Road is not because the applicant at 504 put in that location. That window, the location of the window at 504 predates the window at 506. It is the neighbor at the location at 506 that designed the building and put their only window facing the kitchen wall at 504. Again, that's an existing kitchen wall location at 504. As for the sunlight issue, if we go back to the photo on page 68 to 70, again, yes, if we could just zoom out a little bit. Again, that window facing there, you can see it's below the second story section. And if we just go back a couple of pages, can we go down a couple of pages, please? If we go, yes, that window that the sunlight issue is raised about is below the cantilever. So the complaints about losing sunshine into that window, if we go back maybe one page, or maybe, yes, that window is below that cantilever on the second story. I'm not seeing how much light was ever getting into that window at a 0.66 meter setback that's not getting back at a 0.44 meter setback when that window is below a cantilever on the second story. That's the width of that porch. Also, in a city setting, in an urban setting, when there is an expectation of certain sun and sunlight. There's no expectation not to have any shadowing on a walkway between two buildings. So again, respectfully, I don't think that that's a valid concern in the context of an urban setting and two fourplexes beside each other. In terms of some of the concerns raised by the other neighbor, I think some of these concerns raised by the first neighbor, again, they're not planning related issues, so I will not address them unless the panel would like to hear about them. There was the neighbor from 502 mentioned about the previous approval. The previous approval did not include any side yard setback variances. The side yard setback on 502, which is, I believe, the mother of the neighbor that spoke, is actually compliant on that side. There's no variances on that side. The setback is on the north side. And I did want to mention again about prior approvals. One of the prior variances was for a spiral stairwell at the front, a setback of a front stairwell, a spiral at the front that has now been eliminated because the spiral stairwell has been put at the back and now complies with the setback. So only two of those prior variances are still going to be relied upon for the building permit. And again, some of these comments from both the neighbors about the orders to comply, I know that the neighbors were complaining about these construction issues. I know they reached out to the building department. I have personally not seen any orders to comply in this file. I don't believe any are posted on the AIC. But again, I don't have the full record of the history of everything on this file. I have asked my client for a record of these documents. I have not seen anything, personally.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions of the agent? Dylan?
Yeah, so I guess first of all, just to understand clearly, the reason, like I can see that you need to shore up the basement, obviously. But now you're also saying that you want to put steel beams all the way up. And is that because basically the first floor wall that you're using is not strong enough to support anything?
Yes, that's why it has the concrete on the outside, and the concrete's on that outside to then put those beams on that shaky wall. So it's basically just sitting along that stronger wall in the basement, the 20-foot footings, and it's extended all the way just to be consistent.
And couldn't you put the beams on the inside to support the rest of the house?
In theory, if the whole support structure was built on the inside, I guess it could have been done that way. But just, again, with trying to create this multiplex of those extra units and the lack of respect to the neighbors, the lack of a material impact on the neighbors, it was determined that it was better to have it on the outside. Again, I think this proposal actually there's other reworks in the proposal, and I mentioned it in my presentation. The really only addition is that 0.2 meters, but what happened is because the 0.2 meters made the prior window well at the second and third story irrelevant, that the owners reworked the internal plan, and that's why we're now at 16 bedrooms, whereas before I think we're at 8 bedrooms. It's the fact that it negated the functionality of a window well that was on the building permit. So I did explain that in my presentation, because I wanted to provide full disclosure on that.
Okay, so right, so you don't have that window well anymore, so now you just have windows along the side. But you're not going to push this extra 2 meters, you're not going to push the windows out. They're still going to be in their original location above the original wall, right? They'll just be sort of deeper in the wall?
On the first floor, the living space is the same distance, but again, because the upper floor is extended, so when the concrete was put in and on the exterior, the concrete's gone up and that's a supporting structure, so then the steel beams come up from the supporting structure. So then the second story roof just kind of lines up with the steel beams. So
right.
Second story windows.
The second story is actually going to be that's going to be the main wall of the second story.
Yes, and the second story, the windows and the living space have admittedly moved closer, but that's why I focus on the fact that on that property at 506, there's not a single window except for the one that we discussed, the one below the cantilever that's set back so far. There's a blank wall there. There's not a single window to look at to obstruct any privacy.
Right, but that's not really relevant to whether you have windows, but okay.
Well, sorry, my apologies. I guess I was trying to address the privacy concerns about the windows.
Right, yeah, and there's not really a privacy concern, but there's certainly presumably you're going to use special fire.
It's outside of my area of expertise, but I've always heard enough about when you're close enough a certain distance, a specific type of window, shutter, something has to be worked out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Gary?
Well, I guess my question is along the same lines. I just wanted to understand it better. So the concrete support wall essentially has to be raised all those 3 stories.
Well, yeah, because the concrete is really at the basement. It's the 20-foot footings reach below the building and the full height of the basement level. As soon as we get to the first story, it's the steel beams, but the steel beams extend up from the concrete structure of the 20-foot footings in order for the beams to be supported by those footings. So it just kind of extends up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Here, you're okay?
Just maybe.
Oh, sorry, Dylan.
Yeah.
A question?
Oh, sorry. Does you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, just no question, but just a comment, if I may, at this point, or do you want to wait till we get into committee?
Yeah, we're not in committee. I think we'll just stick with questions for now.
You talked about the impact on the neighbor. Clearly from their neighbors' photos, there have been some serious impacts on their use of their property. I know you're not the developer, but can you address, and they seem to be frustrated in terms of getting compensation or whatever, can you address that? Because obviously this work has impacted the neighbors significantly.
So again, I'm going to qualify what I say here because technically this is outside of the planning rationale budget history. When I was retained by my clients, I was retained to address this minor variance application, but also to talk to the neighbors because the communication has fallen apart a little bit, and I've tried to reach out to the neighbors to have a conversation, but I was told that all is accepted as written offers and I can't have the conversation that I was trying to have. And again, I didn't want to get into non-planning issues, the issues on the construction, including the damage to the construction wall. I don't want to get into how the construction will happen or what it had to do with the construction of 506, but I was retained to try to resolve everything, and I haven't been able to get the neighbor on the phone. I have reached out, I just haven't, I've I haven't been able to have that conversation to try to resolve everything and wrap it up.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can the agent speak to the order to comply?
Again, I have not seen any orders to comply. I've heard the neighbors. I've heard them I know there's a history, and I'm simply commenting to the documents I've seen. I have not necessarily seen every document. I've asked my client for a history so I could speak to it. I saw there's some orders to some other city departments or other government departments because there was issues of the construction about who the work. I've seen something about who the workers are and the workers. It wasn't I've seen something along those veins. I have not seen anything in a building department order to comply. But again,
Okay, so I think we get the point. Do we have anything in our package?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's not in our package. I have searched the system. There is an order to comply, and it's a deviation from the approved permit plans. And this is from January 2025.
Is this in relation to the wall?
This would be in relation to the permit plans that were issued for construction on this site.
And no further details on the nature?
Chair, could I try to answer that?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Hold on a second, sir.
I'd rather keep that. If I can find out the information, I'll share that, but at this time I can't see it on the system. All I can see is the description and the fact that there is an outstanding order to comply, which means that we'd have to charge a double fee for this application, and if committee were to approve the application, that a condition be imposed that we receive that double fee violation based on this open order to comply.
Okay, thank you. Do you have an explanation for this order to comply?
Sure, if I could speak to it.
Succinctly, please.
I'm going to speculate on it a bit here, but if I've seen the photos and I've been to the site, the concrete part of the structure, and it was visible, I believe, in some of the photos. And I think it was also in the engineering's report, the photos on my side. The concrete part, in order to support the wall and to keep everything from collapsing again, as explained in that engineering report, I believe the concrete wall might have been built without the permit to keep everything in place and safe. And my last comment on the topic, Chair, is I understand the committee does not like proposals where anything was ever done without a permit, and I appreciate that, and I can see where, if that's the case, that the committee would have to charge the double fee for in order to comply. But again, I simply ask the committee to look at the proposal and its planning merits rather than looking at this consideration, which again, I believe is punished through the fee process. If that is the case, I haven't seen it.
Sir, so what you're saying is the actual poured foundation portion was inconsistent with the original approved plans. Is that because is the setback issue that you're seeking relief today?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's only the concrete part that's already been.
No, I understand. All right. Any further questions? Thank you, Sabrina. None? All right, let's take it into committee. This is a weird one. Who wants to start? Zahir?
Maybe I'll get started, Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
I apologize if my voice breaks up because I'm having some technical issues here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, what's up? Thank you. I just come back to the variance before us. We had one variance, and the explanation that has been provided seems to, for me at least, it suffices in terms of why these variance is being sought. A lot of the other issues related to the neighbors' concerns and so on, I think are beyond the scope of this application. I did have one concern which I raised a little bit earlier, and that was to do with the access to the rooftop. Apart from that, I really don't have any other concerns. There's privacy screening concerns, which I can raise. But other than that, I think this is a very straightforward application. It's a single variance, and we have an explanation for it. So I think this is supportable, despite all the other issues.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think it's a supportable one.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would just agree. I would agree with Zahir, but I think this is obviously very messy, and I understand the frustration of the neighbors. And regardless of what happens here, I really encourage the agent and the owner to resolve the issues with the neighbors, because it's unacceptable.
Okay, thank you. Dylan?
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, clearly it is related because the work to do this, even the concrete footing, clearly impacted the neighbor considerably. So that's really, I think that's problematic. But I also understand that it was kind of an emergency work that would need to be done. So I sort of understand the need to do that as quickly as possible, even before the process has been done. And I appreciate that they've come to us with the next steps. And although very long-winded, the explanation was fairly clear that, once you have that footing, it makes sense to then build the upper stories based on that. So I agree with Zahir on the face. Once you dig down to the basics of it, it's a fairly minor and simple and clearly rationalized variance.
Thank you. This committee often sees proposals for new developments, new buildings being introduced into existing lots. And neighbors often have concerns about a number of things, but one of the concerns that many neighbors often have is they're worried about how the new construction is going to affect their foundation and their house. And we often assure the neighbor that there are protocols and guardrails in place to address, prevent, and at a minimum mitigate those kinds of concerns. My colleagues have talked about the damage that was been done to the adjacent neighbors. This is exactly why neighbors get tiffed or worried about new developments coming in right next to them. And it just exacerbates that anxiety that people have. So I think you're hearing the panel admonish your client fairly clearly that the work that's been done has been done improperly and in a way that appears to have damaged the adjacent neighbors. And they are unsatisfied because they've complained and those concerns don't appear to have been addressed. So I appreciate you representing your client. It's not your issue, but if your client is listening to this or if he isn't, I would encourage you to take this message back to him that this kind of construction and its impact on the adjacent neighbors is unacceptable. And at a minimum, they need to redress some of the damage that's been done. So, but I think the general consensus here is what you're asking for is relatively minor. So I too will support it. So, anyone want to move a motion? Zahir?
Sure. Yeah, I'll move a motion to approve this application. The conditions to be attached are forestry 1 and 2, privacy screening on the rear, second, third balconies on the south side. Pardon me, and there will be no access to the rooftop. There's also a Metrolinx advisory note, but that's just the advisory.
Okay.
I think I've.
The Metrolinx is the condition.
Is it the condition?
Yeah.
It's the condition this time.
No, is it a condition?
That would be the warning condition.
Yeah, the warning condition.
So Sabrina, is that condition for the rooftop sufficient for your purposes?
That there shall not be access to the rooftop?
Yeah.
Yes, that's fine.
And then do you want to do the rest of the condition for the...
Through you, Mr. Chair, you may want to consider the double fee violation based on the fact that the footings were constructed. There's an order to comply which created this variance that's before you today.
Okay. So here, did you want to attach that to your motion?
That'll be fine.
Okay. All right. Motion by Mr. Byatt with that series of conditions, seconded by Mr. Reed, pardon me. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval, and as I say, if you could please take that message back to your client.
Thank you, Chair. Panel.
All right. Next item is 616 Milverton Boulevard. This is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear one-story addition. Also to partially enclose the front porch and construct a basement walkout. There'll be a total of 2 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised zoning notice received April 24th, 2 photographs of subject property, excuse me, covering letter from the agent. We have 5 form letters in support from 603, 607, 619, 620, and 634 Milverton Boulevard. We have a staff report from community planning.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Thank you. Mr. Galbraith.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You've got some revised variances, Sean. Could you just take a moment and walk the panel through the public notice and the changes you're making?
Absolutely. If you'd like a graphic, it's in my my cover letter. But essentially, we have been able to add soft landscaping to the rear yard such that variance 3 is no longer required. And variance 2, the front yard soft landscaping, we've found some extra space to add a little bit of extra soft landscaping there as well. And so we're able to reduce the amount of variance that we need there. So the next page, that one there. So you can see, so that we've added the little strip of soft landscaping on the left side, and that brings our variance request up to 50.5%, which is 5.8 meters squared. Basically, we've squeaked out as much soft landscaping as we can extract out of the front yard.
Okay.
And added some to the backyard.
Okay. All right. Other than that, it seems like a fairly straightforward application. Is there anything further you'd like to share with the panel?
Nope. The proposed front enclosed porch is common on the street, including the attached neighbors.
Right.
I agree. It's a straightforward application.
Okay. Any questions, panel? Dylan?
I'm sorry, I just noticed somewhere, I think in the cover letter, you promised permeable pavers as well? Or just gonna
Yeah, so there's a couple spots in the front where if you, on the site plan that's on the screen, go back, you see permeable landscaping. Basically, there's a couple spots where we will use it where possible.
Okay, great, thank you.
It's not lots, but it's something.
Okay, that's in the plans, so, okay, great.
Yes, it is.
And you've seen planning's comments about tying it to plans?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? All right, let's go into committee. Who wants to take this one?
I can take it, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks. I commend the agent for telling us about those changes. Those are positive. And the front yard, even though it remains, it's a very small area and it's hard to fit in what they're trying to fit in, but it's been improved, I think, to the extent that it can be. The variances are minor, and I move approval of the application subject to the community planning.
The amended
As
application.
amended, yeah, subject to the community planning condition.
And do we need to put condition for permeable pavers? No, it's in there?
It's in the site plan.
It's in the site plan?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Motion by Mr. Reed to approve, seconded by Gary. Did you want to second this one? There you go. Mr. McCabe. All in favor?
Very good.
You have your approval.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next item. Everyone okay to continue, or does anyone need a break? We got 2 more to go. Do you need a break?
No, I can keep going.
And Dylan's thinking about it.
Depends on how long these go.
All right, let's push on then.
Okay.
If you need a break, put your hand up.
I will.
All right, next item is item 28, 37 Grenadier Heights. This is an application to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with a front covered porch and an attached 2-car garage. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 18 photographs of the subject property. The TRCA permit number affecting the subject property. You have email correspondence from Transportation Review, Development Review. Staff reports from Urban Forestry and Ravine and Natural Feature Protection and TRCA. We have correspondence and opposition from 35 Grenadier Heights, 181 Ellis Avenue, and Scott Morgan, no address provided.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person and 3 registered speakers in opposition.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Hello. Yes, it's Brad Abbott, Abbott Design Limited at 542 Mount Pleasant Road, Suite 200, and I'm representing the owner as the agent.
Great. We have some folks who want to speak to this item, so we'll need a presentation, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be brief. I did submit a letter that should be in your package there. Possibly the best is just to go through my comments here. With respect to the building height, my rationale for the increased building height was the design of the building makes the dwelling appear to be 1.5 stories with a main roof line that recedes away from the street with dormered windows. Dormered windows on the second floor. This reduces the impact of the height at the street and in our view is compatible with other homes on the street. The gabled wall on the front elevation meets the bylaw for height and only the receding sloping roof that recedes away from the street requires the variance. I've attached a photo that was just briefly shown there of the house next door. We're actually replacing the existing 1.5-story house that you see beside the 3-story house that I pointed out in this photograph that is certainly going to be higher than anything we're proposing. And with respect to FSI, FSI is really about density. It's calculated at 0.51 times the area of the lot. I hadn't run across this before, but I find out that you cannot include the area of your property that's under TRCA jurisdiction. So if we were able to use the entire lot area, we'd be reduced down to asking for 0.48 times the lot area. Then just a quick review of search on your database for other properties in the area. I picked the ones closest to this house, 3 on the same block that all have numbers greater than what we're requesting. If we now go to a discussion on the rear yard setback, if we can go to that, that drawing there is the useful one. It's a trapezoidal, triangular shaped lot, if you will. And as you can see, none of the homes on the to the west of us comply. They're existing non-conforming because of the shape of the lot. And the red outline is the existing house, and you can see that we are no further encroaching into the rear yard setback than it's only that garage portion. We basically just cranked the garage to better address the street. We're actually improving slightly the rear yard setback, but the existing is non-conforming. As is the neighbor to the west is actually a 3-meter only rear yard setback, just by comparison. Okay, and the side yard setback is number 4. And it's required to be 1.5. We are asking for a 1 foot or 1.35 meter side yard setback there. And that was a result of us just wanting, again, to crank the garage so it addresses the street better than the existing house does. It was an awkward way to access the garage before. Now this would be more straightforward. And in all of that, in order to get a side entrance into the house, and we just needed the width on the garage and couldn't afford the full 1.5 meter side yard. That side yard is adjacent to the neighbor's garage, so there's no privacy issues along there and no chance for any meaningful landscaping. So we don't feel that the extra foot is impactful at all. The house to the west, again, only has a 1.9 meter setback by comparison at its closest point. Driveway width. Again, this site plan is useful for illustrating our issue here. We have a very large, mature private tree in the front yard that we're wanting to protect, and forestry wants us to protect it. So the driveway is designed so that you can back out of the...
Just going to ask you if you could wrap up, please.
Yep. We're just backing out straight out of the garage and going around the TPZ of that tree. And at the point where we wrap around the tree is the width of the yard that needs the width of the driveway that needs the variance. So that's driveway width. And TRCA, we have a permit from TRCA, so that takes care of number 6 and 7. That's my permit.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any burning questions? We have some folks who want to speak to this.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll hear from the owner at 181 Ellis Avenue.
Hello there.
Hi. Have your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Radha Chatta, and I live at 181 Ellis Avenue, and I'll be speaking for my household. So I want to say hello, greetings to you all, the hosts and the panelists. Our concern here is the request for the variance of the required setback from the north lot line. So on the agent's plans, I didn't actually see any response to that third item on the list of requested variances. This is my concern. So there's a very large tree, a very old maple tree on my property, and the trunk is right up against our shared fence. The size of this tree is not represented to scale on the plan drawings. Its trunk is 15 feet 7 inches in diameter, in circumference, pardon me. And arborists have aged the tree between 200 and 300 years old. So it's at least 80 feet tall. So the requested variance would place the new build 2.93 meters closer to the tree. And we're concerned that the new foundation will seriously injure the tree. So I'd like to ask about the process of evaluation regarding the injury of this tree. Has the permit to injure this tree been issued by Urban Forestry?
We will put that question to the agent.
Okay. So as I said, I didn't see the agent's comments about this third item on the variance, so maybe he could address that.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it, really. It's I speak for the tree, and I'm hoping to look out for it because it's been here in this neighborhood for longer than any of the houses have.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll hear from the owner at 39 Grenadier Heights.
Okay, Ms. Sim.
Oh, yes. Thank you for letting me comment. I had some technical difficulties and I was not able to send a letter.
Okay, ma'am. I'm just going to ask you to, for the record, give us your full name and address, please.
Oh, yes. Margaret Sim, 39 Grenadier Heights. So I'm the house to the west.
All right.
I guess maybe it's a hypothetical or theoretical question about why we do have setbacks and why do we have rules about the widths of driveways if they're not going to be, accepted. Right now, when I look to the east, when I wake up in the morning, I see trees, I see the sun, and I see vegetation, I see nature. And now I'm going to be looking at a wall. And I do believe that the scale of the house is a little bit exorbitant. It's a third larger than the building that's there now. And I might just also make a comment about the fact, again, this is probably irrelevant to your job, but the fact that they're going to tear down a perfectly beautiful home that's been updated and renovated, and that's also sort of a bone of contention among many of us here. And I guess that's my point. The house is a third larger than what's there now. I am appreciative of the fact that it seems to be architecturally in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. It looks like we're not going to have an ugly glass box next to us. But there's a two-car garage there now, and which seems to be sufficient. This is going to be a very big garage that I'm going to be next door to. And so those are my objections.
Great, ma'am. Thank you very much. All right, our third speaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll hear from the owner at 35 Grenadier Heights.
Good afternoon.
35 Grenadier Heights?
Yeah.
I am concerned
Sorry,
about
sorry, ma'am. Didn't mean to interrupt, but we didn't catch your name.
Oh, no problem. Darcy Failings, and I reside at 35 Grenadier Heights.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, for the owner. So we submitted a letter of objection, but we also are concerned about the variances around the increased allowed floor space and the rear yard setback. So at a practical level, what that does in terms of the new dwelling is it pushes it 3 meters further back from where it ends currently behind our house, and that will negatively impact the light coming into our kitchen. We also have significant green plantings, a cedar hedge and a katsura tree along that area that will not receive any light and will be impacted. So those are our concerns.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right, I think that's it. All right, sir. Back to you. You've heard some concerns from the neighbors. I wonder if you could take some time to respond.
Sure. The response from 181 Ellis, yes, we're in love with that tree as well. And we've engaged an arborist who has submitted a tree protection plan to urban forestry, and it has, and we have also submitted a permit to injure. We are not removing any protected trees on the lot, and we are applying to injure that tree, but we will not cause any lasting damage to the tree, according to the professionals that know about trees. So it will be, no, it's up to forestry to tell us how we are going to protect that tree. So as you know, that's the process. We make the application, they'll say perhaps the arborist has to be on board to supervise cutting of roots and things like that. But and she is correct. The tree protection zone, or the canopy of that tree, is from our survey, and the arborist in his arborist report corrected that and did show a larger canopy. So our application is not misleading in any way. So that's about the tree. And what else was there? Then jumping over to, I guess, 35, we're not, number 35 is the house to the right on the plan, I believe.
Yes.
And I guess my response to that is that we're not applying for a length variance, and we're not applying for a side yard variance. So everything we're doing as it affects their property is within our rights, within the zoning bylaw.
Okay. And 39 was concerned about the proximity of your new build to their property.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a 1-foot variance there, and it's, I don't know about her views, but looking at the plan, it looks like their garage is next to our garage, so I don't know what the privacy issue is.
Okay. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Panel, do you have any questions of the agent? Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions. All right, let's take this into committee. Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note that this lot is very strange. It's a challenging lot to build in. And honestly, I think this is an extremely creative way of getting a house in there. The house doesn't seem to be oversized or anything. There's a slight height variance, but it's really just for the roof line. And it seems to me a very creative way of getting the house into a very unusual lot with really fairly minor variances. I was surprised that there wasn't an arborist report included, because usually we do get the arborist report included, and that would have been helpful. But I'm confident that between the arborists and forestry, they will be able to protect that tree, which I think is important. So otherwise, I think this is actually quite a creative proposal, and I would support it.
Okay, anyone else? Yeah, I would agree. This is it's a pie-shaped lot. It actually is a bit of a prestige lot because it backs on to Grenadier Pond. So not surprising we're seeing redevelopment applications. I'm just going to stop there.
Happy to turn that into a motion.
Yeah, could you? Do you want to move a motion, Dylan?
So I'll move a motion to approve the variances with forestry condition number 2, forestry ravines condition number 1. I think that's all of the conditions.
Yeah, you have forestry 1, I have forestry 2 written.
No, forestry 2, and then ravines.
Oh, ravine has 1?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, motion by Mr. Reed to approve with those conditions, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, which brings us to today's last item. 360 Montrose Ave. This is an application to construct a new 3-story mixed-use building containing 1 commercial unit located on the ground floor and 4 residential dwelling units occupying the 2nd and 3rd levels within this building. No parking spaces will be provided on this lot. The existing 2-story mixed-use building containing 3 commercial units and 2 residential dwelling units will be demolished. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, 2 photographs of the tree located at 362 Montrose, cover letter from the agent, previous decision number affecting the subject property, copy of staff report from community planning, copy of the residential or rental housing demolition and conversion declaration of use and screening form. That's the acronym for that. Copy of tree protection plan. We have email correspondence from Transportation Services, correspondence and support from 365, 2 correspondence and support from 365 Montrose, 211, 264 Montrose, and 281 Roxton Road, and correspondence in opposition from 364 Montrose.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent here in person and 3 registered speakers in opposition.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Cudlitz, agent for the owner. My address is 360 Dufferin.
All right, we have some folks who wish to speak to this item, so we'll need a presentation from you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it's been a long afternoon, so I will keep it as succinct as possible. I'm just going to start by saying 360 Montrose. So we were here January 15th, so this is a revision to that. And, just for starters, no objections from transportation or planning. I have it's up on the screen. Great. So we've got a number of variances. There's 9 variances here. What I will say is it's quite a unique site. We're in a CR zone, but the scale of the site itself is much more akin to the neighborhood scaled lot. So our lot size itself is 4.3 meters, which is about 14 feet by 34 meters. I'm going to go through each of these variances as we move through the as we move through the presentation, but essentially we've got some FSI, some parking requirements, and
Sorry, Jennifer, did we get this?
yes,
We have this in our package.
the
For the chair,
presentation
it's
was.
in the extra late folder.
It's in the supplementary?
Oh, the extra late folder.
Oh, extra late, so we haven't seen it.
Have access to it.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, we're just
Oh.
trying to figure out whether we've looked at this or not. We haven't seen this.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think it was sent in on Monday.
Okay, but you can go ahead and,
Okay, great. Okay, so next page, please. Great, so this is the subject site. There's an existing building on it that is,
Was that going through the changes that have been made?
no, I'm gonna tackle them with a bit more detail. So the existing site's fully built out, so currently it's at a 0 lot line all the way around. Next page. As I mentioned, the site itself, while you can see it there's a little red dot, it's in a CR zone, but the scale of the site, being 14 feet wide, is much more akin to the neighborhood scale of a building, or a building site. And so we've used the, EHON principles to develop this into a multi-unit residential building. Next page, please. So this is just comparing where we were at January 15th. On the left-hand side, you'll see we came in at 4 stories, fully built out. We had multiple meetings with the neighbors, and, I can tell that it's a very tight-knit community. I'm very empathetic to that. After several meetings with them, we've come back to you today. We've reduced, there's no height variance. That was very concerning to them. And we've introduced an angular plane. So you'll see we still have 4 units. They're slightly smaller in scale, but still producing family-sized units that we're excited about for the community. Next page, please. I'll move through this quickly, but this is essentially just further down Harbord, showing some more density. I think Harbord can handle the density. Next page, please. That's just some more of the same. Next page, please. Diagrams and plans showing Harbord handling the density, kind of all the way along. Next page, please. I'm going to get to the variances now. So we do have an FSI variance. The maximum, we're asking for 1.79 from 1.5. Feel that this is minor in nature. Next page, please. The next 2 are for parking. Because we're in a CR zone and there is commercial at the base of this, we are getting a couple of parking variances. The whole site is built out, so we actually can't provide it, but also the diagram here shows the walkability of the site and the adjacencies to transportation. Next page, please. Next, variance 4 is for the height of the first floor. Again, in a CR zone, we're getting 4.5 meter requirement for the height of the first floor, which is commercial. We're keeping that at a residential scale in order to, maintain the sort of scale of the street and also allow us to stay under the total height variance. Next page, please. The following 4 variances are all setback related. We've got a requirement for a fence on the north side, which we're going to be essentially at a 0 lot line there, so the fence will be the building itself, which is a similar condition that is existing. A landscape buffer is required if you've got a CR zone to a residential zone. Again, that's kind of a nuance of this site. We won't be able to provide that. Number 7 is a 3 meter setback if you don't have windows. We're proposing to just build on the same footprint. We're not going to have windows at that side, but it is producing a variance here. And finally, at the rear yard, we did work with planning to have lane widening back there. So that's what that is. Oh, shoot.
Actually, I ate up some of your time, so keep on going.
Thank you. Next page, please. This is the last of the variances, and again, you'll see that the lane widening back there. We are getting an angular plane variance because we're basically starting the angular plane from the setback at the lane widening that we worked on with planning. So that little blue triangle at the left-hand side there, that's the only massing variance that we're requesting. All of the sort of red is as of right, and the yellow represents, the as of right for the neighbors to the north. That's kind of it, and then I know that we've got some speakers, so I'll address their concerns.
Great, thank you. All right, why don't we go to our speakers?
Sure.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is my microphone.
If it's, is the red on? Red button? Just push the red button. Well, you can sit wherever you like.
All right. I do also have, given that you're tired, I did my letter that I've written. I do have copies of it. Could I? No need for that? Okay. All right, thank you. Committee of Adjustment. My name is Alex Stamp, and I am the homeowner at 362 Montrose, which is the property immediately to the north. My wife and I have lived in this house since October of 2002. Over the past 23 years, we've welcomed 2 children, as well as multiple dogs, including our 2 that we currently have. We are opposed to this application for a variety of reasons. We have lived next to this property for 23 years. It has had a consistent tenant for the entirety of those 23 years, as well as commercial units that have been consistently occupied, with no more than a 3-month vacancy for some parts. In the applications for this property, the phrase sun-facing family units was used previously. I would like to point out that this building will literally block out the sun from our family. We have reviewed the shadow study document that we don't see as being provided to you and find many inconsistencies. In the study, the projected shade of the 3-story building is the same magnitude as the 1-story garages in the area. Even with this questionable projection, we will still be in complete shadow until roughly 3 p.m. each day. While you have not been provided with this shadow study, at noon today, for example, the 2nd story of the building next to us put shade across 70% of our property. 3 stories will completely cover us for the majority of the day. What this organization is seeking to do is to develop to the maximum height on the entire length of the property with no setback. There have been similar developments in the area that have run the entire length of the property with a setback, or there has been no setback, but they don't run the entire length. They want to develop on the entire space. This organization did not start out on the right foot with us, as the architectural team made 0 consultation for their first proposal, and then when that proposal was denied, only then did they consult for the design. In regards to the risk to property, I'd like to highlight item 26 that just went on today as exactly what we are afraid of. The proposed setback of 5 centimeters is an extreme risk to our over 100-year-old property. This concerns us as we have no idea how a building is going to be put up 5 centimeters from our deck, gate, shed, and concrete driveway without contact, let alone the 50 centimeters from our property foundation, which is about the same distance between you and your computer monitor right now. While there is one member of Studio AC who has done a very good job of being a friendly face of communication, we require an overall structure of clear communication that includes the owner and construction team. We have received different information in regards to demolition versus underpinning that makes it unclear if the wall along our property line will come down or not. We have been seeking answers to these questions and have heard from Studio AC that moving forward, they will no longer be those with whom we communicate. However, also, when we reached out to the owner and construction company, we received answers only from Studio AC. We have reached out to the owner of the property and as of yet have not received transparent information as to what would occur if our property were damaged. There have also been meetings with the structural assessment team, but the findings have not been provided to us. My understanding is they only took place in the last week. Only on following up did I receive some communication via email reply yesterday that seems like they will keep the foundation, perhaps. These conversations have been initiated by us, and the lack of transparency and formal documentation is of great concern. Like item 26 earlier, we don't want to spend 2 to 3 years fighting through insurance with a toppled over house with the only documentation being an email thread from the architectural firm that has rescinded communication. We are not comfortable with not knowing an estimation of the construction duration and the conditions for us during that time, as the responses come from the same organization. That has said, they will not be our point of communication moving forward. I understand that this project is divided into the architectural, the construction, the insurance, and the owner. However, I am concerned that once this proposal passes this goalpost, that we as the owner of 362 will lose remaining protections. We will not be living next to a design. We will be living next to a construction site with great risk and hardship. There are simply not enough clear formal answers as to the structural plan for us to feel safe with this organization getting the green light. Myself and my neighbors are also very concerned with the brown noise of the air units. Earlier, we expressed concern with the AC units being on the north side next to our properties and requested they be moved to the south side. We no longer see the placement of these units on the plans, which leaves us concerned. In addition, my neighbors and I frequently have issues with people parking behind our house, and these 4 units plus commercial spaces will increase the need for parking. In conclusion, we see the impact of this as a negative to our community and not in line with the statement of creation of beneficial housing, as it renovicts current occupants and depreciates value to the long-term residents of the area. This is a financial benefit to the owner at great cost to many, including severe reduction in property value as well as risk to my family. If the mandate of this committee is to ensure quality family housing, then I am asking for protection of my family house. This is literally a condo developer wishing to cast a complete shadow over my family home. And the previous decision of this committee was good building, wrong location. Whether it is 4 floors or 3, the negative living conditions for my family at this location will remain unchanged. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll hear from the owner at 364 Montrose Avenue.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Amy Shen, and I am here today on behalf of my parents who live at 364 Montrose Avenue. I speak not in opposition to change itself, but in the protection of a community that has long lived in peace, stability, and mutual respect. This is a humble neighborhood, home to elders, families with children, and people who did not ask for disruption. We did not ask for this drastic change. And I speak on behalf of those whose lives would be negatively affected, like my neighbors at 362 Montrose and my parents at 364 Montrose. This proposal is not rooted in service to the community. It is clearly profit-driven, and that intention has been felt deeply by this community from the beginning. In fact, the first time this proposal was introduced, the developer bypassed the surrounding neighbors, attempting to move the application forward without proper community consultation. That alone speaks volumes, and it has left a lasting discomfort and sense of distrust in this process. This proposal also includes 9 variances, many of which are not minor, and this committee has already recognized that once before. The scale, the height, and the complete lack of parking does not reflect the needs or the integrity of this neighborhood. Importantly, a total demolition of the existing building with 0 setback is dangerous, and that was not a minor variance that the committee agreed upon from last time. Furthermore, the construction will cause unnecessary traffic congestion, particularly along Harbor Street, a vital and already busy road that many residents rely on. The ripple effects of this proposal during and after construction will be felt in the everyday lives of everyone nearby. In the end, this is not just about buildings, this is about the people, and this is not about it's about protecting communities' right to peace. And in this case, this building is not the right fit for the lot. So, in conclusion, I kindly ask the committee to honor the voices of the residents because this development does not serve the community. It only serves those who will profit from it while leaving behind disruption and division. Please let this decision reflect care, integrity, and truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? No.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll hear from the owner at 368 Montrose Avenue.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Name and address, please, sir.
Frank Bosson, owner and resident at 368 Montrose Avenue, so 4 properties north of 360. I would like to start to acknowledge that we did have discussions with Jennifer. I'm pleased to see that they backed down a bit on on the size of the building. The massing now is much closer to what, the massing should be. And actually, at the end of the discussion, it almost felt like this was a proposal that we could support. But a couple of weeks after we last spoke with Jennifer, I was sort of walking, randomly across streets, and I came across one intersection that has a very similar situation, and that is just south of Trinity Bellwoods. There's an intersection between Adelaide and Stafford. So similar situation. So you have this, this family home, and next to it, there's this big 30-meter long wall. That wall was not quite as high as the one that's being proposed here. I estimate it was 10 meters high over 2/3 of the length, and the last third was only 7.5 meters high. When I looked at that wall and the properties adjacent to it, I felt like I wouldn't want to live here. So that is why, this is not something I could really support, because I don't think that would be fair to the people who live right next to the north of this proposed building. Last time I made the point that, since avoiding a zero setback is very difficult on this site, an acceptance of the zero setback should be conditioned on the height being reduced between the 10 meters. So, for example, if you should have a 3-meter setback, so instead of having a height of 10 meters, it'd be more reasonable to have only 7 meters high. So that means that probably, the east side of the building would be 3 stories high, but the west side would only be 2 stories high. That means there'd be only 3 units there. But I think that would be a much more acceptable compromise to people living right to the north of this property. Then looking at the materials submitted for this application, I was a bit surprised to see that we're 5 letters of support for this. So looking a bit closer at these letters of support, it turns out that they come from 4 different addresses. All these addresses are south of Harvard Street, so none of these people would be directly impacted by this development. And furthermore, only one address is within 250 meters of the proposed development. The other thing I found a bit strange is at least 3 of the letters came from architects. So maybe it is that, most people living south of Harbor are architects. But I'm sort of wondering how come all these architects submitted these letters of support. Bottom line is, I'm not convinced that these letters of support really reflects how the people living close to that intersection feel about this development. One of the things that was brought up in the letters is that some of the buildings in Harvard are underused. And that is actually a true statement. There's a building at the corner of Harvard and Harvard that I haven't seen in use for like 10 years. This would be a great site for development. But I'm also seeing businesses moving, and the main reason businesses moving seems to be that rent prices go up, basically driving businesses out. Now, with this development, I expect that the price of the rent of the current location would go up. And I'm pretty sure that the fitness many of us in the neighborhood currently attend will not last past the summer. So that's going to be a loss for the community as well. One thing I'd like to bring up also is the tree. We brought up that last time. I'd appreciate if forestry could confirm whether the tree in the neighbor's property is indeed protected or not. The picture we're seeing here is kind of misleading because you don't see what's happening in the bottom half and the bottom 2 meters of that tree. The trunk, as I measured it, is above what it should be to be a protected tree. And in conclusion, I would ask the committee to really focus on one key issue here, which is to balance the number of units you're adding to 360 Montrose with the side effects to those properties that are directly to the north of it, and that means 362 and 364 Montrose. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions of the speaker? None? All right. Back to you.
Okay. So, thank you to everyone who spoke. I guess I just want to start off by saying, in terms of the communication, I definitely appreciate that, we got off on a difficult foot. I think, part of that, there was a postal strike and nobody received the notifications. There was a number of things, but all I can say is that we made a real concerted effort to move forward positively. And as you heard from Frank, and I met with Alex's partner, there had been a lot of communication, and I'm obviously disappointed to hear that not everybody is excited about this, but I understand that change is hard, and I understand that this is a difficult site. In terms of everything, Alex, that you said about the communication, I just want to say, in terms of structural, we just haven't developed the structural until we get zoning approval. That's just the process. Like, we can't work too far into a project until we know that it's going to be viable. That being said, we did meet with structural on site last week on Thursday, and we did talk to them about how to handle this in a way that it would be least disruptive to the neighbors. We work on a lot of properties that have very tight setbacks in Toronto and downtown Toronto, trying to produce rental units, and our structural team is well versed in this type of work. We are looking to underpin the foundations that are existing so that we don't have to get into shoring or anything that's going to, have a more substantial impact. And we have talked to Alex and his partner about once there is a construction plan, working on that together. So that is what I'm hearing. I do want to point out, we don't have a height variance on this. And so while I appreciate that the site is to the south of these neighbors, we came down from the height variance to 10 meters. The neighborhood to the north, the allowable building height is 11 meters. So we are actually lower than what these houses could future develop to. And in doing so, not only did we make a couple of the units smaller, we also got rid of any rooftop terrace. And I will say that in terms of the ask about the mechanical, we just haven't developed where the mechanical will be, but we are absolutely on board that it can be on the south end of the rooftop. So if that's something that can satisfy the neighbors, we are amenable to that. I will just say, these sites are challenging, and it is true that last time we were here, the feedback we got was great building, wrong site. And to that, we said, okay, we'll make some significant, I think, changes to the building. Introducing the angular plane to reduce some of the shadow at certain times of day, and also to come down below not have a height variance. So, that was our attempt, and we do believe that this site is a site that could service 4 rental units, and hopefully those people in the future can be a part of a very tight-knit community. Lastly, I will just say, I think 364 just asked to, honor the voices of the residents, and we all have to live together, and I think that there is a number of voices that are in support of, building community, and so, I just want to find a way to do this together. Finally, Mark, who is the fitness instructor on the ground floor of this current building, we've spoken to him. He's interested in taking the rental unit in the future. I can't, verify that, but I just want to say that community is important to this team and to, the owners of this site as well. They're not trying to be big box developers or anything like that. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Dylan?
Yeah, can you just, I appreciate you're not asking for a height variance, that's great, certainly helpful. One impact that does affect the northern neighbor in terms of light and other things is that you are, variance number 8, you're not giving as much of a setback from the lane as is required, and if that was, if you were following that, that would shorten the building and, open more space. I was just wondering if you could talk about, but I also understand that you are in fact giving some space to the city, I believe, for lane widening. Could you just elaborate on the whole lane widening thing in variance number 8?
Sure. We did work with planning on the lane widening. The idea was that, the existing build out right now, I think you can see it in the rear photo, that one-story brick building goes really to the very end point, and it is quite a tight condition. Planning was in support of this document, or of this proposal, but asked us to lane widen, and the reason that we're building it out is to be able to support the 4 units. It's quite a narrow site, so in doing so, it is a challenge to get 4 units in there that aren't just one bedroom, or we want to be able to encourage families, or a single parent and a kid, so we're trying to have more than 1 bedroom units. The adjustment from the previous proposal to this one with the angular plane does already significantly impact that 4th unit, and I think advocating for good rental units in great communities, clearly tight-knit communities, is something that we are very passionate about. And so, using the EHON principles, we developed this plan.
How wide is the lane now? Is it going to be with the extra space that you give?
I think... the new building will be 4.46 meters from the lot line abutting the opposite side of the lane.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? No further questions? All right, let's go into committee. Some of us were involved in this application when it was previously before us. Peter, you supported it, so I'm assuming you're similarly supportive of it this time?
Yes, and for the same reasons I was last time, except I think there have been meaningful improvements made in terms of shaving off the top floor and providing the angular plane kind of approach. Last time, I completely understand and sympathize with the neighbors to the north, the first few properties, because their life would be significantly impacted by this, but I don't think it would be impacted in a very different way than if something were built almost as of right. Part of the problem too is that this is Harvard, and Harvard's a major street, right, where redevelopment is anticipated and desired, but you have these flanking lots on them. So it makes a very uncomfortable situation if you're going to have any kind of meaningful redevelopment with the properties just adjacent. And I'm not really sure how to deal with that when you're trying to get these broader public policy goals in place. But yeah, I think this is a really good project, and I'll support it again.
Yeah, I was in on this one as well, and folks have characterized this as being the right building, wrong site. I thought it was the inverse. It was a good site. It was the wrong building at the time, and in part because it was too high. Right adjacent to a pretty thriving residential area. And it was, exacerbated, I think, by the rooftop patio, which, as we all know, generates a lot of angst amongst adjacent neighbors. But Peter's absolutely right. This is a vibrant street that is characterized by a fairly eclectic range of uses, from residential to commercial to retail. There are relatively new multi-tenant tenanted buildings along the way. It is a street in transition. It does have bike lanes. It's uniquely positioned to allow for pedestrian and alternative types of transportation. And my point is that this site is going to get redeveloped, should be redeveloped, but redeveloped in a sensitive and sympathetic way. And I think, frankly, that the application that has returned does that. I thought, by having the angular cutouts on both ends, reducing the height, eliminating the rooftop terraces, I think it is a little bit more sympathetic to the neighborhoods. We do need rental accommodation that provide folks with accessible access to amenities, and it's a block away from Bickford Park. So it's got a lot of things going for. So my point is, it was a good site. It was originally the wrong building. I think the folks who've come back have heard that concern and brought forward, I think, a quite a reasonable application. So I will support it. Dylan?
Yeah, so I wasn't at the original one. So when I saw this fresh, I thought it was a very creative use of a difficult lot on a site that is really appropriate for some apartments and some renewed retail space. And I think I appreciate the attempts, the angular planes and such are a good effort to try to create a little bit more space there. I also really like the ground floor bike storage and waste. Like, a lot of times we've seen people haven't really addressed the waste issue, and this one really does. It takes care of those issues and then puts it on the ground floor. I thought it was very creative. And it is very difficult on the property directly to the north. It's definitely going to have a long-term impact, but as my colleague said, an as-of-right building would still have almost the same amount of impact. It's just the location and how that location is going to play out. Being right beside a major street, you're going to have something more substantial eventually on the main street. So I think it's a really good proposal, and I'm happy to support it.
Great. All right. I think we've convinced ourselves. Can I get someone to move a motion?
Yeah, I'll happy to bring a motion to approve this application for the reasons that we've all stated, without condition.
No conditions. Yes, no conditions. Thank you. Motion to approve by Mr. Reid, seconded by the other Mr. Reid. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
And with that concludes today's agenda. We are adjourned at 5:46 p.m.
Thank you. Nice work.
Thank you, everyone. So just before we turn off, Sahir, are you okay? How are you feeling?
Getting better, but I need to be close to quarters for the moment.
Okay. Enough